meeting is, so it being 6 o'clock, I am calling to order the Select Board meeting of November 17th, 2025. If you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And this meeting is being telecast live by Chelmsford Telemedia and being recorded for later viewing by the public. First on our agenda, we have public service announcements.
Okay, so the first item tonight is a certificate of recognition. And I'll just read this. This certificate of recognition is hereby presented to Stanisława Grigowska Voltage, Stasia Neferes on her 100th birthday, born in Odruskin Krosno, Poland, December 1st, 1925. She was a member of the Polish resistance movement from 1941 to 1945, fighting for the liberation of Poland from German occupation. Stasia was awarded the Polish Army Medal in 1966 and Home Army Cross in 1986. Stasia moved from Krosno to Chelmsford in 2019. Today, we have the honor of celebrating Stasia Woltos, a woman of strong faith and who has shown great courage and bravery in the face of Nazi and Russian persecution. Happy 100th birthday to her, awarded this 17th day of November 2025 by the Select Board. Is there anybody here to receive this in Stasia's honor? Seeing none, we
Okay,
will...
If I could just...
Oh, sure,
go ahead.
please, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to make one comment. If Stasia's watching, or anybody that knows her, we all want to say to her, Stolat I Vienze. That means 100 years and many more.
Absolutely. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you all. Okay, now for some fun stuff, if that wasn't fun enough. The Vinyl Square Tree Lighting Committee presents the annual Vinyl Square Tree Lighting. This will be held Saturday, December 6th, 2025, from 4 to 6 p.m. in Vinyl Square on the North Chelmsford Common. Join them for a magical evening as they light up the Vinyl Square tree and kick off the holiday season in style. Event highlights include a special visit from Santa Claus with wish list writing supplies and photos with families, live music by local musicians in the gazebo, fire truck bringing Santa to light the tree, hot cocoa, delicious food and festive treats, holiday crafts and activities for the children. Bundle up, bring your families and friends, and enjoy the warmth of community music and holiday cheer. We can't wait to celebrate with you. If interested in volunteering or donating, please contact Brian Creamer at brian.f.creamer@gmail.com. The next item is join the town of Chelmsford for the annual Chelmsford Holiday Prelude. That will be held December 7th, 2025, from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m., and the tree lighting will be right at 5 p.m. Chelmsford Town Center in Common start off the holiday season by greeting your neighbors at the annual holiday prelude. Activities include traditional horse-drawn and tractor hay rides, free goodies, face painting, performances, and of course, Santa. Admission to most of these events are free. Donations are appreciated. And a notice from the Department of Public Health. They are offering free in-home flu vaccines for homebound residents. Getting a flu vaccine is essential for staying healthy during the respiratory illness season. If you or your loved one finds it difficult to leave the house to get their flu shot, call the Chelmsford Health Department to schedule an in-home vaccination today. For more information or to schedule an appointment, please contact Darcy Beal, RN, at 978-250-5241. 5241, excuse me, 250-5241, proudly offered by the Chelmsford Health Department. And our last item is a Chelmsford Memorial Tree Program. The town of Chelmsford is proud to launch the Memorial Tree Program, offering residents a meaningful way to honor loved ones while adding beauty and shade to our community. Participants can sponsor a tree that will be planted in a public space in town, creating a lasting living tribute that will be enjoyed for years to come. Learn more about the program and how to participate by scanning the QR code, which you can't see, or visiting the link here, www.chelmsfordmass.gov /document center /view /21372 /memorial-tree-programs. Let's grow Chelmsford's future one tree at a time. And that concludes our public service announcements for this evening.
Thanks, Pat. And next up, we have general public input. And I don't know if we have anybody here in person who wants to provide public input? No? I understand that we do have somebody online that wanted to comment on something about the dog park. We do have that later in the agenda, but if you did want to provide your input during public input right now for 3 minutes, you are welcome to do that also.
Go ahead, Laramie.
I'm good to talk now? Fantastic, thank you. Hi, I'm Laramie. I am a dog park regular and have a child who also loves going to the dog park. And I just wanted to comment my personal opinion on the age restriction change. Right now it's 6 years old, and we have problems with people who bring infants and toddlers there without any idea of the age restriction in general. So I'm not sure what purpose an age change would have. I understand the principle of other communities in the area have higher age restrictions, but it's not being enforced now anyway. If they were to change it, I would suggest 8 years old instead of 10. That seems like a good age of children being able to make decisions by themselves and accept responsibilities and kind of being taller. If they possibly want to do a height requirement instead of an age requirement or in addition to, I think that might work out. But also the biggest thing for me would be increased signage no matter what. Putting more signs that are larger and more easily visible at all entrances and exits and several of the most congregated in areas, I think would really help with an age restriction in general. And I was also wondering how the town would like people who are attending the park to help enforce any age restriction, regardless of what it is, because it's not enforceable right now. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I think that the age of 10 is too high of a restriction, and that the town should put more signage in the park, regardless of what the age restriction is, labeling the age restriction.
Okay, thank you. We'll keep that in mind when we're doing the hearing later.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else for general public input? No. Okay. Next we have committee vacancies.
Okay, committee vacancies as of 11/17/25. The Agricultural Commission has one unexpired 3-year term ending June 30th, 2026. The Board of Assessors has one unexpired 3-year term ending June 30th, 2027. The Commission on Disabilities has one unexpired 3-year term ending June 30th, 2026. Two unexpired 3-year terms ending June 30th, 2027, and 2 3-year terms ending June 30th, 2028. The Council on Aging Board has one unexpired 3-year term ending June 30th, 2026, and 2 3-year terms ending June 30th, 2028. The Historic District Commission alternate member has one unexpired 3-year term ending June 30th, 2027. The Holiday Decorating Committee has one unexpired 1-year term ending December 31st, 2025. The Parade Committee welcomes all applicants to 1-year terms ending July 31st, 2026. And the Vinyl Square Strategic Action Plan Committee is looking for a business representative for a 1-year unexpired 3-year term ending June 30th, 2026. If you are interested in serving on a town board or committee, please complete an online application available at the town website. And for more information, please contact the town manager's office at 978-250-5202 or TM office at chelmsfordmass.gov.
Thanks, Pat. And next up, we have some public hearings. We have 3 for National Grid and Verizon poll petitions. We have somebody from National Grid here. Hello.
Do I start?
How are you? Yeah, could you just say your name and
Vaz Naeng, 1101 Turnpike Street, here on behalf of National Grid.
thank you.
Do you want on Garrison Road first?
Okay, so do you want to just walk us through these? The first one is Garrison Road.
Yeah, National Grid is seeking the town's petition approval to install 2 jointly owned poles for system reliability upgrades. The poles will be installed in the public way on Garrison Road.
You can see it's right at the intersection of Littleton Road. Are these additional poles or? Yeah, these are 2 new additional poles. Yep,
These are the ones, the P1 and P2.
yep, you can see there, exactly.
And why do we need those?
For the new equipment that'll be placed on the poles in order to keep the system running in case there's any, shorts here and there. So.
And they can't place it on the existing poles? Because there's 2 poles,
Uh,
P125 and P150 are existing poles,
Yeah,
right?
unfortunately, the poles there now have equipment on it already, so they require the 2 new poles for the additional equipment.
Any questions?
It's
We
public
can do
hearing.
these all together.
I'd do them separate because they have a public hearing,
Okay.
so you're going to have abutters from different locations possibly.
Okay,
That's what I would suggest, but you can do whatever you want.
okay, thanks. Does anyone have questions on this one? Or comments?
I assume the butters have been notified of this, and I assume that's in an easement there that we're looking at?
Yeah, in the town right away.
Yep, okay. And the butters have been notified?
So far, to my knowledge, none have contacted us with any questions, so.
Okay, perfect. Okay.
Okay.
It's a public hearing.
Oh, so we have to close the public hearing, right?
No, we have
Was
to
there
ask if
anybody-
Oh,
there's
so we
any-
have, we have to
Is
take,
anybody
thank
here?
you, it's been a while. Yeah, so do we have any input from the public?
There's no one online.
There's no one online. Anyone here? No, okay.
Okay.
Okay, I'll take a motion to.
Okay,
close the
motion to
public
close the
hearing.
public hearing?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Does anyone have anything? Any comments? No? Okay, I'll take a motion. If no one has anything?
Motion to approve the poll petition for the 2 polls at Garrison and Littleton Road.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion approved. Do we have to reopen the public hearing now?
No,
Or
no,
it's
it'd be a new public
different
hearing
public
for
hearing?
Billerica Road.
Okay,
Billerica
so next
Road.
we have a public hearing for another National Grid and Verizon poll petition for Billerica Road.
Vaz Naeng, 1101 Turnpike Street, here on behalf of National Grid. National Grid is seeking the town's approval to install pole, JO pole 62-50 on Billerica Road for system improvement upgrades. The pole will be installed in the public way.
And you see that's adjacent to Apollo Drive on that side of the road, in front of where the existing business is. Yeah, the one that does the cleaning, the uniforms. Cintas, yeah.
No, Cintas is down on, oh, it's on that end.
On that, yeah, that end, right, at Billerica Road, yeah.
The reason for the new poles?
System reliability upgrades.
Okay.
This is one of the taller poles, right?
Uh,
The way I read that, that's the dash 50 or no?
excuse me?
It says it's a dash 50, is that just,
No, that's just the numbering of it.
50 and a half. Yeah, you got pole 50, you got
62
62
and a
and
half.
63, and that becomes 62 and a
I
half.
thought it said something about it being a bigger pole, maybe that was the other one.
Well, on the second paragraph, it does say it will be.
It would be a 50-foot high pole.
Yeah,
What's the
It's not-
normal height?
it's not really 50 feet high. is it?
It's all normal height. It's dependent on what the two adjacent poles are on each side. If it's a 40, we can only go 5 feet in difference. We can go 35 or 45, depending on what the poles are on each side. So.
But you're looking to do a 50-foot pole in this instance.
I believe so. For the equipment that's being put on the pole, we require the 50-foot H1 pole to make it more robust for the equipment going in.
Guess we're having poles in between poles now, not
Yeah.
taking any away.
Right.
We need it to work, so.
Anyone have any questions? No? Okay, I'll take a motion to close the
So-
public.
Was anybody here from the
Close the
public
public
to?
Oh, sorry, I'm sorry. Is there anyone here from the public that would like to comment? No. Okay.
No, you can see there's just two abutters, so.
Okay. Motion to close the public hearing.
I'm sorry, there are two abutters online?
No, they're just two abutters to this.
Yes, but they're not
pole
online,
hearing, yeah,
okay.
one being Atrius Health and the other.
Thank you. We have a motion to close the public hearing and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Does anyone have any comments, questions?
I'll make a motion that the board approve pole 62-50 on Billerica Road as presented.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
The motion passes. Okay, and next we will have a third public hearing for another National Grid and Verizon poll petition at Central Square.
Vasna Eng, 1101 Turnpike Street, here on behalf of National Grid. National Grid is seeking the town's approval to install pole 1-50 in the public way in Central Square for a system reliability upgrade.
So this is
It's right in the island. Right
right in
there,
the
Central
island.
Square, yeah.
Okay, and this
So we're
calls
hoping-
for another 50-foot high
Yeah.
pole, and I know that
Well,
we're
we're hoping
looking
it's only gonna
to.
be temporary, so that when they do the undergrounding, this would go underground with the others. when the
Right,
time
because that's,
comes.
we're anticipating
But then-
burying all the utilities
Right.
here,
But-
so.
But in the meantime, they need this pole for the center.
Okay. All right, and then same reason, equipment,
Yes.
okay. Okay.
Okay, do we have anyone for public input? Any comments from the public? No. Okay, I'll take a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing?
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone have comments, questions? Okay, I'll take a motion.
Okay, I'll make a motion that the board approve the pole petition to install a 50-foot high pole on the small common, pole 1-50, between, well, I guess it would be Billerica Road, would be the location, so at Billerica Road as presented.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Okay, next we have some licenses. First up, a license for a roadside vendor license for Almo's Flower and Garden Center, Inc. at 55 Granite Bill Road. Hello. Hi.
I'm Robert Brezick from 271 Shaw Street, and I'm here to represent Almo's Flower and Garden Center from Dracut
Okay.
to get our yearly vendor license.
How many years you been doing this?
Oh, too long. I've been selling trees there
Yeah.
probably about 20 years now.
Yeah.
No, not quite that. It's about 15 years probably.
That's always, yeah.
Oh, it's Sully's.
Yeah.
Can't believe it's
Oh,
already
yes,
here
I see
again.
it here.
Yeah,
Okay.
don't rush it.
I know.
Okay.
So when would you start?
He gave me the paper. Let's see. It would be
11/23,
from
yeah.
November 28th to December 24th.
Or December 25th, just in
Yeah,
case.
right to
Yeah,
Christmas.
just in case.
Yeah, he won't be
I don't know if
there.
I won't be there
He won't be there
Christmas
Christmas
morning.
Day.
There's a tree in the lot, you can have it.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions, any comments?
No, I'm good.
No? Okay, I'll take a motion. Be ready.
I'll make a motion that we approve the roadside vendor license application submitted by Almo's Flower and Garden Center to be held at Sully's Ice Cream at 55 Graniteville Road, Chelmsford, Mass, as presented.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Good luck. Thank you. And next up, we have another license for a transfer of the common victular license from Nick Conti DBA Thai Jasmine Restaurant to House of Carowin LLC.
Hello. Hi,
Hello.
my name is Apichia Bunyawong from 313 Littleton Road. Yeah, sure.
Hi, welcome. So, okay. So Thai Jasmine is going to be House of Carowin?
No, the name will be Udom Soup.
Udamsuk, okay. Okay. Is this a ownership transfer?
Yep.
Okay.
Remain a Thai restaurant or some other kind of?
Yep, it's the same Thai food, yep, but
Okay.
better.
We won't tell Nick you said that.
Everybody here welcome, 10% off. Once we pass. So tomorrow we fully open, so please welcome everyone.
Okay.
And you're aware of the DPW concern saying that the seating plan shows 84 seats, but the application states 95. Do we know what we're doing or?
So, like, I feel like they're overwritten before for the previous owner, but the true capacity, we believe, is about 84 that we were submitted.
So that would be what you're looking for, is the 84 seats?
Yes.
Okay.
Seating capacity.
It sounds like we're increasing seating capacity from 84 to 95 is what you're looking for? Is that?
This is the drawing there.
From the people, so what, we doesn't care because we not tend to, like, you know what I mean? So I think, like, what is
Those
allowed,
84
the
there.
maximum the town allow, what would that be?
So you're not trying to increase seating, you're actually just gonna keep the seating as it is? We're just
Yes.
unsure actually what that number
Yes.
actually is? Okay.
Exactly. So whatever the towns approve and whatever the max
90.
capacity that, like, the town will approve for us, I'll take it.
Okay.
I have a question. I submit this
Do you mind just coming to the microphone so we can hear you? Sure.
I'm the landlord,
Oh, hi.
and I submit this official architect drawing to building department, and gave to the secretary. What's her name? Vera.
Very, yeah.
Anyway, she so we changed it to 99 from 85 because the previous restaurant, which was 20 years ago, 2004, I was here too, was 99. We didn't try to increase anything. Just, she said the best way is to keep the same as previous one because you bought from
The seating is only 84.
previous one. So I had my architect redraw the plan, change to 99.
I see. So it says the customer seats is 84, customer standing 10, so the total occupancy is 99.
I want to make sure the number is the
says it to
same
the
with the
left.
architect, official architect drawing with the application. Don't confuse with why is this, why is that.
Yeah.
It's not gonna matter so much now, but when they come back for a liquor license and we submit it to the ABCC, it has to follow the plan. And I'm not saying they can't have 95 occupancy, but the seating plan has to be the seating plan. So as long as they stick with the seating plan, which is what we're hearing, I think they're okay.
So we have an application
This is just for the common victular.
that says capacity for 95 seats, but we actually only have seating for 84, and then with 10 customers standing, 5 staff, total occupancy is 99.
Yep, exactly. So
However, the DPW does state that if the seating plan is changed to add additional seats, this will be capped at 14 seats, which is understandable. But after that, you'd have to apply for sewer I&I, and that must be addressed if you were going to do any more than that.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep. So 99. So that's what it is.
Total occupancy, yes.
Yes.
Awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, so it would be according to this
As planned, right.
document, is that correct? Do we have to specify that in the motion?
It's-
Because the application is for 95, do we
But it's,
specify that?
approve the application as presented, and that
Okay.
would be it. Yeah, that would be the plan.
For 84 seats and 99 total occupancy? Okay. Okay. Does anyone have any other questions?
Yes. Hours of operation, 10:30 a.m. to 1:30 a.m.? That's a little later than we usually allow. And I know the current license is only 11 a.m. to 11 p.m.
So, we just want to
Standard is
apply
one,
like a maximum that we can do, something like that.
Yes.
We kind of stretch it when we allow one.
Right, 1 AM is the standards board's closing for new licenses, and that has been
Right.
in effect for at least 15 years.
At least,
Yeah.
yes.
So 1 a.m.?
1 AM, yeah.
Perfect. Yep.
10:30 a.m. to 1 a.m.?
Yep.
Okay, and you are aware, as Paul said, that this is only for food, this is not for alcohol at this time?
Correct. Yep.
Okay, just want to make sure you're clear on that.
Okay. Anything else? No? Okay, I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the common victual license for House of Sharon LLC, DBA Udomsik Thai Kitchen and Bar, to be exercised at the premises at 313 Littleton Road, Units 2, 3, and 4, with the exception that we would limit the opening hours from 10:30 to 1 p.m.
Yeah,
1 AM.
AM, sorry.
that would be very
That'd be really short, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, and we have another license for, common victular license for JHM Chelmsford.
A shop.
DBA Home 2 Suites by Hilton.
Yeah, that's for those in the audience, that's the former Radisson Hotel off of Alpine Lane. Ashok Patel is on Zoom
Okay.
to speak to this application.
Okay. Mr. Patel, are you there? Hello.
Hear you. Good evening.
Present, how are you?
Hi. So do you mind just stating your name for the record?
Sure, Ashok Patel with the application for the Home 2 Hotel to have its food license be processed.
So I have a question,
It's
a
about-
couple questions about
Yes.
this. Is it to serve only the customers of the hotel?
Correct. This is, it's a typical hotel setup, just like what we have at the hotel next door, which is the Holiday Inn Express, where the breakfast area is complimentary to the guests of the hotel.
And it's only for breakfast, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks like the hours are Monday to Friday, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m., and Saturday and Sunday, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m.
Correct.
So I guess I have a question, and the DPW has the concern about seating, but if it's only for the customers, is that?
Yeah, now DPW is satisfied.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
all right, good.
And are we actually complete because it says it's incomplete because it's missing the business certificate?
I think they have-
If you
I
see-
believe somebody has already processed that, and
yeah.
drop them off. I know one of the office person was working on that.
Yeah, I think that's all set, Matt. I think that's all
All
set.
set.
I think it's all
And
set.
we won't release it without the business certificate.
So we'll make that a
Yeah.
contingency. Okay. All right.
And then what about the sewer flow calculations?
That's all
Did we
set as
submit it
well.
to the DPW?
Yeah, because again, it's this, the seating area outside is only for the hotel guests, so that's
Okay.
okay.
Right, but the chief of police asked for more detailed plans needed regarding the two outdoor seating areas to ensure the safety of the public. Do we have any further information on that?
Yeah, so we've already addressed that because Mr. Jose from the building department was already out there looking at it a week ago. And he recommended that we should be putting some bollards in place, so those are being worked on as we speak.
Okay.
And how do we monitor, how do we make sure that, will the
We'll
police
do it,
follow
I'll
up
make
and
a
just make
motion
sure that
contingent
that's?
upon successful installation of the bollards to satisfy the police chief's concern as well as receiving the business certificate before it's issued.
Okay.
You ready?
Anybody else? No questions? Okay, I'll take a motion.
Okay, I'll make a motion that the board approve a common victular license for JHM Chelmsford LLC DBA Home 2 Suites by Hilton to be exercised on the premises at 12 Independence Drive, contingent upon successfully issuing the missing business certificate, and contingent upon the installation and acceptance of the police chief of bollards or permanent structures needed due to the proximity to the roadway, as presented.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very
All
much,
set.
appreciate it.
Have a good night.
Yeah.
Okay, and we have one more license in front of us for a transfer of auto dealer license from MOMS Middlesex LLC, DBA Moms, North Chelmsford, to St. Car LLC at 170 Tingsboro Road. Hello.
Hello, good evening, Mohammed Bajegni, representative Streetcar, owner Anderson Santana.
So this is why you noticed my lights were on earlier, because you work with cars. It's all coming together. Thank you.
I told him, she's gonna say, no, I'm gonna approve you because you know what you're doing, you know, work with cars.
Okay, so what do we have here? What are you guys doing?
So we were just taking over this location that used to be Mom's for, I guess, 23 plus years. So we wanted to transfer over the dealer license, and we're also doing body work. So we have the license with the state and everything pretty much all crossed off with all the departments in the board. And we were just looking to get the dealer license established with the town.
The building's empty now, right?
No, no.
Oh, good.
I mean, it's empty from Mom's, but
Yeah, that's what I
we're,
meant, yeah.
yeah.
And so this will be to match the license in place now of 30 vehicles on the lot and no more than that? Is that
Yes,
correct?
yes, because Mom's was selling motorcycles, so I think their license was 150, which, then they were using in a showroom indoor too, so we're not doing that.
Okay.
So what is it, this number 9, it says, have you signed a contract as required by section 58, class 1?
Class
And it
1 is
says
for,
no.
No, class 1 would be a new car dealership.
Oh, okay.
That would be- yeah,
So that's not applicable.
right.
No.
maybe in the near future.
I wish.
Okay.
Are you putting in a partition wall?
Yeah, we did.
Okay, I also see this note here that says the applicant has failed to apply for signs permits as mentioned multiple times. If the sign permits are not applied to by the sign company within the next 3 business days, fines will be issued. Do we know
So
if that's
this is why
been-
we have new owner. Yeah, we have new owners here, so, but I think Jose wanted to raise the concern about the signage, that you just can't keep continually putting signs out there.
Okay.
And
Because we
we,
have a bylaw.
we did apply for it as of Friday, and today I sent a message internally just asking if we needed to do anything else. And I believe it was either Wednesday or Thursday we applied for the permit. And just before coming here, I saw a response. I just didn't have time to reply. They just wanted the Loomis, and the dimmer switch, which I got to do some digging because this is a previous sign, and we didn't do any work like that to it. We just replaced the facet.
Okay.
So I'll respond to that.
So it says it was an issue with the previous owner?
Yes.
And they're working on it? Okay. So maybe that needs to be,
I'll make it contingent upon successful completion of the application for the sign permit.
okay.
Is this the only place that you have, or do you have another, do you have other locations?
I have another location before, but not right now.
Okay.
I have a downtown low, like Iron Motor Group.
And it also says a comprehensive parking site plan is needed because the police department has concerns over parking locations right along Tingsboro Road and the number of parking spaces located on the site.
Yeah, but then read the next part.
Yeah, they were all addressed later.
They've been revised.
It says,
I
has
believe
no
the-
concerns with the
Revised plans.
Captain's here, and
Okay. Oh, yeah, 10:15 and 10:30, okay. Okay. Does anyone else have questions, comments? No? Okay, I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the application for the transfer of a Class II auto dealer's license currently issued to Moms Middlesex LLC, DBA Moms North Chelmsford, to ST Car to be exercised on the premises at 170 Tingsboro Road. And we'll make that contingent upon successful application and completion of the sign permit as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All set.
Thank you guys.
Thank
so
you.
much.
Good luck. Thank you again for the light. The light,
no
shout
problem.
out.
Hopefully the battery's good. If not, let us know. We got a tow truck on site.
I will come to you. Thank you. Okay, next up, we have a tax classification public hearing. Just so the public knows, state law requires that the select board hold a tax classification public hearing every year. This provides an open forum for public discussion of local property tax policy. And then after public discussion and review, the select board decides whether to tax all classes of property at the same or different tax rates. And here we have someone to present to us. Hello.
Hello. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, and Town Manager Cohen. For the record, I'm Sam Chase, Board of Assessors Chair, and together with Chief Assessor Reagan LeMay, we're representing the board at this hearing. Now, before we get into the meat of our presentation, I'd like to take a few moments to give you and the community some information about assessors and assessing in general. In Chelmsford, the town manager appoints assessors for a 3-year term. Current board members are Sam Chase and Mike Donahue, who is sitting right here. The town manager also appoints the chief assessor, who manages day-to-day assessing operations. Our chief assessor is Mrs. Reagan LeMay. Currently, we have a board vacancy because Harrison Mayotte resigned this past spring to take a new position as Townsend's town clerk. Harrison was an important contributor to the board's work, and we wish him well in his new profession. All board members and the chief assessor have to meet the minimum qualification standards established by the Department of Revenue, as specified in Mass General Law, Chapter 59, Section 21B. To qualify as assessors, board members and the chief assessor must complete basic courses of training and then pass a Department of Revenue administered exam within 1 year following their appointment. This requirement assures both the Department of Revenue and the public that board members and the chief assessor are proficient in the application of Massachusetts assessment law, administration, procedure, and techniques, and that the assessors are qualified to assess all real and personal property within the town. Now, let's take a moment to review how we assess Chelmsford property. Our chief assessor will give a summary overview of the process that all local assessors are required to use.
Okay. To determine assessed values, we use mass appraisal. The DOR defines mass appraisal as the use of standardized procedures for collecting data and appraising property to ensure that all properties within the municipality are valued uniformly and equitably. Mass appraisal values a universe of properties as at a specific date, and using common data, a standardized procedure, and statistical testing. Unlike individual properties, fee appraisal, which banks and real estate brokers use to estimate the market of the value of a single property. The goal of mass appraisal is to bring all properties to their full and fair market value to achieve property values equity throughout the city or town. The DOR requires that we revalue all properties every 5 years for certification, according to specific requirements set by the Bureau of Local Assessments. Fiscal 26 is a certification year for Chelmsford. The result of the revaluation process must meet DOR-defined standards. In addition, the DOR requires that cities and towns perform an interim year adjustment, which is a reevaluation between certification years. Our property valuation process is based on standards and established by the American Appraisal Institute and governed by the Massachusetts law and DOR regulations. Residential properties are valued using the construction cost and sales review methods together. Commercial properties are valued using the cost, sales, and income capitalization methods together. Results are checked using standardized statistical testing methods to arrive at a market value for specific property types. The DOR reviews the assessor's work and must certify that all real estate values meet the legal standard of being at full and fair cash value before a uniform tax rate can be finalized. If residents would like a more detailed description of the assessment process, they can read the Assessing Division's report in the Fiscal 25 Annual Town Report.
Thank you. Now, assessors don't set the property tax rate. We calculate a uniform tax rate by dividing the amount to be raised from the tax levy by the total certified value of real and personal property that is subject to taxation. Then the Select Board decides whether that uniform rate will apply or whether commercial and residential properties will be taxed at different rates, the so-called classified or split tax rate approach. Tonight's public hearing is the beginning of that process. Now, depending on economic conditions, under a single tax rate, residential and commercial property values may increase or decrease at different rates annually, resulting in a natural tax shift over time from one property class to another. And that's exactly what was happening in the late 1940s and 1950s. So in the 1950s, the city of Springfield decided to address that particular situation by instituting a form of classification that taxed commercial, industrial, and personal property at a higher rate than that which was applied to residential and open space. As a result of that action, Springfield's commercial property owners sued the city. The case is Bettigol versus Assessors of Springfield, 1961. In Bettigol, the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court held that any attempt by a municipality to tax different classes of property at different rates was unconstitutional. As a result of that ruling, Springfield had to abandon its split tax rate policy. And from that point on, it was generally understood that taxing different property classes at different rates was, in fact, unconstitutional. That is, until 1978. Throughout the late 1960s and into the 1970s, annual increases in residential property values under a single rate system continued to outpace commercial property value increases. To allow communities to compensate for rising residential versus stagnant commercial property values, the state authorized the split rate system by way of a 1978 state constitution amendment, thereby eliminating any legal impediment to taxing property classes at different rates. Unfortunately, the state legislature gave no guidance as to how communities should implement split rate tax classification. Instead, they left that decision up to local select boards and city councils. Now, currently, about a third of Massachusetts cities and towns split the tax rate. There seems to be no consistent reason why some cities and towns choose to do that while others do not. A few towns try to stabilize residential and commercial property levy shares to a predetermined fixed percentage. Littleton, Maynard, and Tewksbury have consistently used that approach. Some resort or summer towns assume that the commercial property class uses municipal services or negatively impacts local infrastructure more than the residential class does, so they use that logic to provide tax relief to their residential taxpayers. Nantucket and Rockport have provided that explanation in the past. After conducting an exhaustive study in 2004 on the effects of split-rate taxation, the Department of Revenue concluded that most communities that split the tax rate do so primarily to provide tax relief to residential taxpayers, and they don't provide any other explanation for doing the split. A few cities and towns, however, speak frankly about the political nature of classification. When asked by the news media about why they adopt a split rate, they answer that they do it only to give residential taxpayers the lowest possible tax bill. Both Lowell and Bill Ricca have provided that explanation to the Lowell Sun in the recent past. Now, let's go on to our presentation. It's designed to make it easy for you to see how various rate and exemption options can impact property taxpayers. You can also see how Chelmsford's property tax burden compares with other towns in our area, and how we rank tax burden-wise with all Massachusetts cities and towns. Hopefully, this information will help you reach an informed decision. Now, on behalf of our board, I want to express our gratitude to Chief Assessor LeMay and her capable staff for the outstanding work that they do to ensure that residents are treated fairly and courteously. Residents who have any questions concerning property valuations should feel comfortable in contacting the assessor's office at 978-250-5220, or you can go to the town's website and find the contact information there. The staff is always available to assist you. Okay, so I guess the town manager is going to manage the slides for us. That's good, because I wouldn't have a clue on how to do it. So, slide 2, please. So, why are we here? Well, we're here because we have to be here. As the chair indicated in the opening remarks, state law requires that you, the Select Board, hold a public hearing every year on the subject of tax policy, or more specifically, determining a split rate situation, if that's what the intent is. The reason that the state has this requirement is to analyze the data that we have that will enable you to make that decision, and also to give the public an opportunity to weigh in, because what you're doing in effect every year is you are making tax policy, and the public has a right to express their opinions on how they feel on that. So after the public hearing and the discussion, you folks are going to decide whether to tax all classes of property at the same or different rates. So this presentation will give you the various policy options that are available to you. It also will give you whatever information you feel is necessary to conduct this public hearing effectively. But most importantly, at the end of the presentation, you're going to get our shift tables, which shows you the effects at various shift levels on residential and commercial property. So, we're going to look at all classes of property, as shown on the slide, and we're going to talk about some of the mechanics about how assessors go about doing their job. We're going to talk about the residential factor. We're also going to give you a summary of statutory exemptions that are available to you to implement if you choose to do that. We're also going to give you a short abatement history and a little bit of a compliance narrative on commercial property income and expense sheets. And I believe that is still required by your tax policy, so we give that to you every year. And we're also going to give you a historical review of tax rates and levy shares. So, once we're done the presentation and the public hearing and you've had your questions answered, you have to do 4 things. You have to vote on a residential factor. You have to vote on whether or not you're going to adopt a small commercial exemption. You have to vote on whether or not you're going to adopt a residential exemption. And you have to decide whether or not you're going to apply an open space discount. So I'm going to ask Chief Assessor LeMay now to walk you through some of the technical factors that surround what we've just been talking about.
So this is a split tax rate and residential factor. So a municipality may increase the small CIP levy by 50% if at least 65% of the levy on a single rate basis comes from the residential class. The Select Board determines the percentage of the tax levy to be paid by each class of real estate and personal property for the fiscal year by adopting a residential factor. The residential factor must be an amount not less than the minimum residential factor determined by the Commissioner of Revenue. The MRF represents the maximum shift allowed in the total tax levy for the year. The residential factor determines how much the residential and open space classes property tax burden may decrease. How much the commercial, industrial, and personal property classes property tax burden may increase. The split tax rate, residential factor, it's continued. Adopting a residential factor of 1, also called 100%, results in taxation of all property at the same rate. Adopting a residential factor less than 1%, less than 1 results in increasingly greater tax burden shift from the RO classes to the CIP classes. Adopting a residential factor at or above the MRF ensures that tax levies for each property class will fall within statutory limits. Small commercial exemption. To qualify for a commercial parcel, it must be valued at less than $1 million. Qualifies only if occupants and tenants are eligible businesses and each tenant and business has no more than 10 employees at locations. The Director of the Department of Unemployment Assistance must provide certificate to this effect. Small commercial exemptions. So this is an example. The Select Board adopts a 10% small commercial exemption. The tax bill for an eligible property is reduced by 10%. The amount of that reduction is added to the bill of all non-eligible commercial and industrial properties. Residential and personal property values are unaffected by this exemption. The owner of the parcel received the exemption, not the eligible businesses. The residential exemption, these may be granted to taxpayers' principal residence properties. It reduces the tax valuation of the property up to 35% of the average assessed value of all residential class properties in the municipality. The residential exemption shifts the tax burden from lower to higher valued homes and those owned by non-residents. The residential exemption cannot exceed 35% of the average assessed value of all Class 1 residential parcels. The CIP property classes are unaffected by this exemption. The open space is an unimproved land that is not otherwise classified and is maintained in a natural state. It exempts up to 25% of the land value that is classified as open space. The OS discount shifts taxes to the remaining non-exempt residential properties.
Okay, and I neglected to say at the beginning of the presentation, as we go through, if you have questions, feel free to interrupt and stop us, and we'll try to answer those questions. If we don't have the answers for you, we'll write it down, and we will bring it back in 2 weeks when you continue the public hearing. Okay, so let's see, we're on slide number 14 now. All right, this is a summary that is required. As far as I know, it's still required in your tax policy. We're supposed to give you every year a summary of abatement requests by taxpayers, and then those which were actually abated. So we have it here starting in 2021 through the latest year, which is 2025. And you can see that for 2025, the number of abatements filed is substantially less than what you would conclude the average would be from the prior 5 years for both residential and commercial. 2024, we had 43, which is normal, and then 2025, we had 16 on residential, and commercial was 27 and 16 respectively. So you might ask, well, what happened? Okay. We don't know for sure because we'd have to go out and ask everybody in town, which would be roughly 13,000 parcel owners, why didn't you file for an abatement this year? We're not going to do that. So we conclude that because the value increase from fiscal 24 to 25 was relatively small for both residential and commercial. For residential, it was 0.9% overall. And for commercial, it actually went down 0.1%, fiscal 24 over 25. So we're just guessing, okay, but we feel that if a taxpayer gets the bill and says, well, wait a minute, my property really didn't go up that much, probably not going to waste time filing for an abatement. That's just conjecture on our part, but that seems reasonable. So on the commercial and industrial for 2025, you say, well, now wait a minute, you had 16 filed and you granted 9, that's more than 50%. What's going on? Well, the abatements, especially on commercial properties, don't necessarily equate to the abatement requests filed in that fiscal year. Contained in that number 9 of abatements is, in fact, some settlements of cases, long-standing cases that we've had before the Appellate Tax Board. We settled those, so those abatement numbers would be contained in that number. Now, I like to highlight commercial property income and expense forms. So what are we talking about here? Department of Revenue says that commercial property owners, of leased property especially, they have to file with the assessors every year an income and expense statement. It shows their gross income as a result of their lease operation, and then it shows their expenses. And we use that information to help determine the lease market. That's what we do. What we don't do is we don't use that sheet sent by that business to peg the value of that business. We don't do that. A lot of people think that's what we do, but that's not what we do, because our job is to establish the general market and then assess properties and adjust it to the market. That's what we do, okay? So another thing I believe your policy still does is you're interested in knowing what's the return of income and expense forms. So This past year, you can see we mailed out 597 of these things, 216 returned, and we have a compliance rate of 36.5, which is somewhat lower than we've had in recent years. But we're still ahead of the statewide average, which is 24.5%. Very important to get that information. And by the way, if the commercial property owner doesn't send us the I&E, they forego their right of appeal before the appellate tax board. So it's pretty important to get that in, all right? Next slide. This is rather busy, and I apologize for that, but I think this is an important slide because it helps to contextualize for you and the general public where Chelmsford's average single-family tax bill falls as compared to our neighbors, all right? So what we're doing here is we are comparing ourselves to 10 towns in the area, and you can see them there. All right, from 2011 to 2025, and the way you read this sheet is it should be self-evident, but if you move over to the first column, Chelmsford, and you go from 2011 to 2012, and then you move to the next column on the right, you see a percentage. So what that percentage means is that from 2011 to 2012, Chelmsford's single-family tax bill went up 4.2%. So that's how you read that all the way down. And then at the very bottom where it says average annual percentage increase, that's an indication of what it says, the average of all those percentage variations in the prior years. So Chelmsford's tax bill from 2011 to 2025 went up an average of 3.6% per year, based on that. And that's how you read this chart. So you can see that of the 10 comparator towns, 5 have higher single-family tax bills than Chelmsford, and those would be the ones that are shaded in the yellow. You can see those towns. And 5 have a lower tax bill, so we're right in the middle, right in the middle. That's where the school department likes to be on their data. That's so I'm told anyway, but that's where we are, okay? Any questions on that slide? Okay. Next slide. This shows the where we rank state-wise in our average single-family tax bill. So you can see that actually, I guess some people would say we're going in the right direction, Mr. Cohen. Last year, our fiscal 24, we ranked 78th. We had the 78th highest tax bill in the state. Fiscal 25, we have the 80th. So we dropped a couple of points. So what that means, obviously, is that 79 communities have a higher tax bill and 271 have a lower tax bill. So that's where we are. And those single-family tax bills are after the shift is applied. Okay, I want to make that point. First year for the tax shift was fiscal 2019, came in at 127, and we are now sitting at 117. Okay, next slide is something that we started to include last year because we did get questions on how we established the market for the properties. And the standard that's in place is that we examine sales for all the property types for an evaluation period. And that is usually the calendar year 2 years back from the fiscal year that we're talking about. So we're in fiscal year 26. So we would examine ideally 12 months of sales that occurred in calendar year 2024. That's the ideal standard. In reality, we don't get enough sales in the 12-month period, so we have to extend that. And the Department of Revenue prefers that we don't go beyond 16 months because the farther you get away from the peg date, the less reliable the data is. It's less representative of current market the farther out you go. Now, in this particular case, you can see that we had to go back to March of 2023 and grab sales from there. And then we advanced a month, and they will allow you to advance up to 6 months in very extraordinary cases. They don't like that, okay, but we did it here because we had to do it to get the requisite number of qualified sales. So we have, for this market data period, we have a 22-month evaluation period, which is longer than ideal, but we have no choice. And you can see, if you look under the column that's the heading 101 property class, that's single family. Single family parcels in Chelmsford are 9,061. Total sales for that evaluation period were 288. But we can't look at all of those sales as representative of market because we are only allowed to look at qualified sales. They have to be arm's length sales. There can't be something else going on in that sale that indicates that it's not market. So once you examine those sales, we have a fallout down to 192. So about a third of them dropped out, okay? We can actually look at 192 and we just barely meet the requirement, which is 2% of your sales. We have to have 2%. That's the minimum. That's why they extend the evaluation period, because we had to get the 2%, all right? So you can see the same process occurs for the other property classes, and that's how we do it. Now, median ASR. ASR is assessment to sales ratio. So the standard that's imposed upon us by the Department of Revenue is that the median assessment to sales ratio for all property types or types within the property class has to be between plus and minus 10% of 100. So the standard is all properties represent 100% market value. The DOR allows us to be at 90 or 110, okay? That's the standard. So we have a little bit of a window there. And if you were to look at these sales, you'd understand why that is, okay? So actually, as far as single family, we're in pretty good shape. That's 98%. I can't ever remember being that close to 100. And I've been on the board now for 17 years, and I don't think we've ever been that close to 100%. That's good. Condos are 96, two families 91, apartments 95, commercial 93. That's a little low. I'd rather have us up around 96 or so, but we'll take the 93. That's within the variation that's allowed by the Department of Revenue. Okay, next slide. This is simply a tabulation. It just shows you the various levy share values going back to 2021. And as I alluded to earlier, you can see in fiscal 2025, the overall value growth for all property classes was 1.9%, which is very low. In fact, it was so low that I questioned it last year, and I talked to our consultant. I also called several of the assessors in the abutting towns. I wanted to make sure we had done this correctly, and they came up with the same result. We did the same thing this year. We talked to local assessors to make sure that our numbers jived with the area residents. And of course, the Department of Revenue certifies them anyway, so once they sign off, you're good to go. This year, and I'll admit I was surprised, and Reagan will break this down further in the next slide, but we had an overall value increase this year, 26 versus 25 of 8.4%. So I was a little bit surprised. So why don't you take them through that?
So I think it's interesting and useful to see a breakout of the residential value. For example, the first line on the slide shows the single family value, which shows that the single family value is about 77% of the total residential value. The next column over gives the single family percent of the total real estate value in the town. And the last column shows you the value change from last year. And then on the bottom we have listed here, we have 637 parcels in the town that are exempt from taxation. The value is $512,622,500,000. Right, I read that wrong.
That's right.
Yeah, okay. Which represents about 5% of all property. The town property and schools are all exempt, along with any nonprofits that we have in the town.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, people might think that's a big number until you look at cities like Boston and Cambridge, where they have over 50% of their real estate is exempt. So they got a problem, okay, as far as their tax base is concerned. So I think we're doing pretty well there. And here, the surprising thing to me, again, was wouldn't you say the commercial jump?
Mm-hmm.
I was surprised to see that number, but that's good news, all right? We'll take it. We'll take that. Okay, Summary levy share, this just gives you a breakdown of where we are levy share-wise from 2021 through 2026. And you can see, and this is pre-split, okay? So this table is based on a single tax rate, okay? So you can see that on that basis, we are moving away from commercial, industrial, and personal toward the residential. So in 2021, 83% of the value was in residential. 17% was in CIP. In 2026, we are now up to a little more than 85%. So we've had a shift. We've had a shift towards the residential, okay? All right. So we talked a little earlier about calculating a single tax rate because that's the first step in the process. And of course, the town manager is all too aware of this. So what we do, and this is totally statutory, okay? There's no discretion involved here. This is what has to happen under state law, or what is allowed to happen, I should say. We start with the fiscal 25, the prior year's levy limit, okay? And then we are allowed to increase that by 2.5%. That's a provision of Proposition 2.5. So you see the number there. Then you are allowed to add new growth. Now, what's new growth? New growth is not value appreciation. If the value of my property is $640,000 in fiscal 25 and it's $700 in 26, that's not new growth. That's value appreciation. New growth is additional square footage, new construction, new development. That's new growth, okay? So we're allowed to add the value of that. And Reagan and her staff, they calculate that every year. They send it into the Department of Revenue, and they certify the number. So that's a good number, all right? That gives us the levy limit. Now, if we'd had a Proposition 2.5 override, an operational override, we would also add that in. But we don't have that, okay? So this is the calculation this year for Chelmsford. So our levy limit is now $128,869, 2027. We are allowed to add excluded debt, which is actually a pretty low number. I think we've heard from our finance director the last couple of weeks about that. That's a very low number, but nevertheless, that's excluded, so excluded from the limitations of Prop 2.5, so we're allowed to add that, and then we get total allowed levy. So our tax levy for fiscal 26 is going to be the number you see there, $129,131,849. Okay, so the total assessed value for the town in 26 is $9,494,445,104. This is how we get the single tax rate. It's very simple. There's the equation right there for you. You take the levy and you divide it by the total real estate value. You multiply that by 1,000, bingo, there's your single rate, $13.60. And when DOR comes back, it's not going to be more than a penny or two off from there, okay? It'll be $13.60 or $13.59 or something like that, okay? Now, where do we go from here? We talked about the residential factor and how that determines how much of the tax levy the residential and commercial properties are going to share. We get a calculated minimum residential factor from the Department of Revenue. They tell us. We don't do that ourselves. They say, okay, Chelmsford, because of your demographic, you are allowed to shift a maximum of 50%. So we can do up to a 150 shift. Now, some towns can do a 175 shift. And they're allowed to do that because of their particular economic demographic, and it has to do with the value of the residential versus the commercial property shares. Those towns that have higher value in commercial are not allowed to shift as much as the other towns, okay, because the commercial is already picking up a good portion of that, all right? But we're allowed to shift up to 150, okay? So next slide. Next two slides are the shift charts. This is what happens to the average single-family tax bill and the average commercial tax bill at the various shift levels. We're projecting this. Okay, and again, when the final results come out from Department of Revenue, it's not going to be off by more than a couple of pennies, okay? So these are the projections. So we start with the minimum residential factor, which is at the 150 split. It's 91.3769. Now, I've rounded that up in the fourth digit to 7, okay, just for ease of viewing, all right? So when you look at this table, here's how you read it. So you start in the upper left-hand corner where it says levy shift, and you follow that all the way down to the bottom, and that is the various percentages of levy shift that you can do, okay? Let's follow that first white line where it says 1, levy shift 1. Follow that over to about 2/3 of the way over, under the column that's headed 694, 695. That's your average single-family residential tax bill projected for fiscal 26. You see the number there? It's 9448. So what this says is, if we were to have a single tax rate in Chelmsford, the average single-family residence tax bill would be $9,448. Follow it over, keep going over to the right, under the commercial tax column, and the average commercial tax bill would be $19,609. This is how you read the table. Okay, so let's go back over to the left-hand side, your levy shift column, follow it down to the 117, the shaded column. That's where you are now. Last year, the board decided on a 117 split, so that's where you are now. So if you follow that over to the right, that will tell you that we are projecting under a 17% shift, we're projecting an average single-family tax bill of $9,171, and we're projecting a commercial tax bill average of $22,943, okay? And you can see what those numbers would be at the various shift levels. That's the point of this table, okay? So the second page simply extends that up to 150. All right, so why don't we move to slide, unless there are any questions on that. Any questions on that? Okay. Let's move to slide 24, okay? Now what we're trying to do here is we're trying to show you what the increase would be to a tax bill this year versus last year. So if you look at the right-hand side of the page, up at the very top, the heading, it says change from fiscal 25 average tax bill, and then you see two numbers, 8820 and 22784. So the 8820 represents the average single-family tax bill in fiscal 25 last year, and then the 22784 is the same for commercial property, fiscal 25. All right, so move back to the 828. Read down that column till you hit the shaded area, which is yellow. So what we're telling you here is that if you stay with a 117 shift, it will mean that the average single-family tax bill will go up $351 versus last year. That's how you read this. The average commercial tax bill will go up $159. Okay? Is that clear to everybody? All right. And then, again, you see it at the various shift levels. So if you were to go, you know, if the board said, hey, we're going to go back to a single rate, well, that would cause the average single-family bill to go up by 628 and so forth. So that's how you read this table. And then the next slide, we just extended it out to the 150 limit so you can see what the impacts would be at the various shift levels. Okay? And that's really it for our presentation. We're not giving you values on a split tax, on a small commercial exemption, because technically you haven't adopted that yet. Okay, so those numbers are not available. But if you do adopt that, then we can come back to you and we can give you those numbers. But just by a frame of reference, so last year we had a total of 401 commercial parcels, and 65% of those qualified for the small commercial exemption. So it's actually a pretty high number. All right? Any questions at all on the presentation? Any questions of either Chief Assessor LeMay or myself in general?
Yeah, Sam, I'm looking at the review of surrounding towns, and it looks to me like the ones with split rates actually have higher residential increases
Some of them
than
do.
the ones without.
What's that, slide 14? 15, all right. Yeah, so if you look at Bedford, and again, the very top line shows the shift level for those towns as it applied in fiscal 25. So Bedford shifts at 175, which is the max, and they've done that for years. But their percentage of tax increase, 24 for 25, was still 7.1, all right? So the shaded towns, let's see, we've got split towns, Bedford, Littleton, and Lowell, okay? So Littleton and Bedford have higher single-family tax bills. Lowell, of course, is lower for a whole lot of reasons, okay? Number one, their property values are lower, all right? Number two, they shift at 175, so that's going to drop the residential tax bill. But most importantly, the Lowell tax levy only accounts for 34% of the city budget. 34%. What's ours, Mr. Town Manager? 78%?
Yes.
All right. So the taxpayer in Chelmsford pays 78% of the town and school expense. The Lowell taxpayer only pays 34%. So that's a very significant impact on the Lowell tax bill. That's why it's lower, okay? And the same thing is true of Drake. They get more state aid than we do. On that, more state aid, less has to come from the taxpayer, lower tax bill. Does that answer your question? Okay.
Sam, just a quick question on the small business exemption.
Yes.
You answered the first part at the end of the presentation, 200 and something out of 400.
Yes.
It says the director of the Department of Employment is the one that certifies that.
Correct.
But who decides what the two qualifications are, the $1 million and the 10 employees? Is that a state decision, or does the town decide that? It's slide 9.
Well, we would decide that because we have the values. No, we
The amount of
don't.
those values are set by state law.
Yes,
$1
correct.
million
The $1 million and the 10
employees.
is
Oh,
state
I'm
law.
sorry, I misunderstood your question, I apologize. Yeah, that's state law, that number hasn't changed for years.
No.
So it probably should, I mean, just on the basis of inflation. It's sort of like the exemptions, right?
Right.
You know, they're out of date, but it is what it is. It's $1 million and has been for the 17 years I've been on the board.
And on the on slide 16, again, this is for somebody that wasn't here on these prior decisions. The shift has gone from 127 down to 17. Is there anything in particular that caused the board to drive those down?
This board, not that board.
No, I know.
Yeah.
I know, but I'm just
Well, the
asking,
first
I'm
year.
asking for a little context.
No, I
that's all.
understand. The first year, we didn't have a shift. We had a shift 35 years ago, and it was 5% for several years. And then the board decided they wanted to ratchet that back. It took them 3 or 4 years. They took a point off every year, and they got it back to parity. And I would say that was probably in the late 90s. All right. So from about 1999 through fiscal 2018, we were at a unified tax rate. Okay. So in fiscal 2019, the board decided to implement the shift at 127, which is pretty steep for a first year.
Absolutely.
Yeah, pretty steep.
I'd like to remind the rest of the board members, we're not here to debate tonight. We can't do that till we close the public hearing. You can ask questions, but
Okay.
we shouldn't be debating or deliberating.
So then I think what happened, and Pat, you were on the board all these times, so if I say something that doesn't sound right to you, jump in, correct me, all right? But as I remember, the following year, there was a discussion, a pretty spirited discussion on the board, and I think most of the members felt that perhaps the 127 shift was a little bit too aggressive. coming out of the gate, so they dropped it 5 points, all right? And there was, as I recall, there was significant community input as well on that, and that was also the sentiment. So they kept it at 122 for the following year, and then 22 through 24, it was 120. And I think, again, as if I recall correctly, the board was looking pretty much at the tax shift tables and trying to, arrive at some, reasonable situation relative to tax increases, because the tax bill's going up every year, okay? We could split it 175. And the first year, you'd get one heck of a benefit, but the next year, your tax bill would still go up, all right? So I think that's what the board was trying to wrestle with, the relative numbers at that point, so they dropped 2 points off. And then last year, as I recall, the way the numbers fell, the board felt that it could go back 3 points with actually relatively minor impact to the residential class. Paul, is that correct? Is that the way you remember it?
Yeah, I think as you
Yeah.
noted, that was a peculiar year with a very small change in valuation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we only went up 1.9% on the values. So the board used that opportunity to back that off a bit.
I can go back to the minutes for kind of some of the detail, but that was the color I was looking for.
Okay.
Thank you.
So Sam, since the shift, the commercial values have dropped in this town, correct?
Not this year. Since the shift, no. Let's see.
I'm saying the levy percentage.
Well, yes, that is true. We've had the residential pick up a greater share of the levy value for the last 6 or 7 years.
Yeah, that's slide 20.
Yeah, slide 20.
So Sam, I have just one question about the small commercial exemption. You noted that last year, 259 of parcels were qualified. Do you automatically put them in that program, or do they have to ask? Do you automatically give them the exemption, or do they have to ask for the exemption?
No, they get it.
They did.
If
Now-
the employment department comes back and says they're qualified, they'll get it. And then the assessor will look and make sure that the parcel still qualifies. But what they're doing is they're certifying as to the number of employees. So you can't have more than 10,
Right.
the business. And that means all locations. That just doesn't mean that location. So if UPS has a satellite office at the Chelmsford Mall and they have 2 employees, they don't qualify, okay? Because UPS has 9 trillion employees, right? So that's the standard that they apply.
Okay, I guess the reason I ask is because a couple years ago, I was talking to one small business person who did qualify, and he didn't want to take that exemption.
Really?
So I guess, yeah, he felt it was unfair to burden the other in that, and so that's why I was questioning why you automatically apply it without them asking.
If they qualify and they've had it in the past, they're going to get it pretty much automatically.
Okay.
But you wouldn't have time to survey and,
Oh, God, no,
and
no.
get responses because you've got to turn bills out within 30 days.
Yeah, no.
You just wouldn't have time logistically to go out and ask
Correct.
them if they want it or not.
Correct.
Because when
No,
you,
there is no push on that, yeah. So
Okay.
it's a very high number, and there's only 14 communities that grant the small commercial exemption,
Oh, okay.
which is somewhat shocking to me, but those are the numbers. Anything else?
Anyone? Pat? No?
This is
it's a public
Okay,
hearing.
yep, so it is a public hearing, so if we have anyone from the public who has any questions or would like to comment, now is the time.
You gotta come up to them.
Come on up to that.
Mr. Harrington?
John Harrington, Executive Director of the Chelmsford Business Association, and my phone is shut off, just in case anybody questioned that. The question I have for Sam is the people that take this discount, small business, does that not swing over to the rest of us that do not qualify for that abatement?
The answer is yes.
So the other people like myself, now we're picking up that 10%.
Correct.
And maybe that's why Pat, the person that did not want to
Yes.
get it, is saying, hey, that's not fair to the other people.
That was what they said, yes.
Okay.
But it does transfer over to
Businesses.
the businesses,
Other
not
bu-
to
other
the
business-
residential.
other
It does not
to
affect,
clarify.
yeah, and nothing outside of the class, okay? It will be picked up by the commercial and industrial class.
That are non-exempt.
Yeah, not the personal property won't pick it up, and not
Yeah.
the residential.
Yeah. Okay.
We have no one on Zoom, so.
No one on Zoom? Okay, so I think the standard is that we usually continue for a couple of weeks to give everyone a chance to digest and think about this. And then we will take it up and vote then.
So we need to continue the public hearing.
Yep, so we need to continue. So I'll take a motion.
Motion to continue the public hearing for
Until-
2 weeks.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sam.
Thank you, Sam.
Folks.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay. So next up, we have reports and presentations, and first we have our police chief, Colin Spence, to talk about body-worn cameras. Chief?
Good evening. It's an honor to be before all of you tonight. I would first like to thank the Select Board, Town Manager Cohen, and most of all, the citizens of Chelmsford for constantly supporting our initiatives at the police department. Whether we are requesting funds, seeking the public's help during incidents, or participating in our various community events, our community is always supportive of their police department. For today's presentation on body-worn cameras, I have also brought Sergeant Nick Zeminski. Sergeant Zeminski has been instrumental in our training unit to make sure our officers are trained to the highest levels in the Commonwealth. In addition, Sergeant Zeminski has been instrumental in applying for the various grants, writing our body-worn camera policy, and researching the various camera companies and products. As I've said on many occasions, we have an outstanding group of officers in Chelmsford, and I'm fortunate and honored to be their police chief. The reason I am before you tonight is to give you a quick update on our progress towards obtaining body-worn cameras. When I was interviewing for police chief back in 2023, believe it or not, it's been that long, I mentioned the importance of implementing a full body-worn camera program for the protection of our officers and our community. In addition, the latest strategic plan recommended researching the implementation of a body-worn camera program. And I'm excited to report that this goal can be achieved with your support. As far as the presentation, the little history of body-worn cameras, pretty much introduced in the early 2000s in American law enforcement. Became more widespread in 2014 under President Obama, and the federal government began to subsidize these programs. In 2015, 1 in 6 police departments nationwide were equipped with body-worn cameras. Ipswich and Methuen Police became the first police departments in the Commonwealth to adopt body-worn cameras in 2016. Regionally, we now have Lowell, Billerica, Bedford, and Burlington that are currently equipped with body-worn cameras. Why have body-worn cameras become a part of American law enforcement? Body-worn cameras in law enforcement deliver measurable evidence-based benefits, enhancing officer safety, accountability, evidence quality, and most importantly, our community's trust. Building trust by providing an unbiased, high-quality audio and video recordings of police interactions. It also meets what the public expects for accountability and transparency. We are fortunate to have an outstanding group of police officers and officers that are embracing this program and shows their commitment to building and maintaining trust, accountability within our community. Now, as far as strengthening community trust and cooperation, President Obama released something called the 6 Pillars of 21st Century Policing. It was basically a roadmap for what police departments should do. The first pillar was building trust and legitimacy. And while the Chelmsford Police Department enjoys a great relationship with our community, it is vital to continue to earn that trust each and every day. As far as the benefits, when we were doing the cost analysis, the benefits to the town of Chelmsford and the Chelmsford Police Department. Body-worn cameras have a long-standing reputation for reducing complaints and use of force incidents. They can impact both the officer and the public's behavior. Normally, when I speak to other police chiefs throughout the Commonwealth, they mention that when officers show up and somebody knows that they are being recorded, they act differently. They see the button, they see the light, they see the camera is mounted on the chest, much like Sergeant Zeminski, a professional model, is wearing over here. That right there, once they see that and see that they are being put on video and that it's being saved, they usually modify their behavior. Provides an objective record. It's not what the police officers are saying happened. It's more objective as far as exactly what the camera is showing. It also has a higher conviction rate and guilty rates that increase the efficiency of our judiciary. Another thing that it does do, a lot of these cases will not end up going to trial if there's a body-worn camera, because the defendants will take a plea, saving us on the end of sending officers into the courtrooms, because we have to pay the officers to go. Also, internal affairs investigations, they can quickly determine the validity, both positively and negatively, to civilian complaints and internal affairs investigations. As I spoke to several chiefs at the latest Mass Chiefs Conference, one of the things when they get a complaint that they believe might be fraudulent, as soon as they say they're going to have the person watch a body-worn camera, the person normally withdraws the complaint. Also, jurisdictions report fewer complaints and lawsuits, also saving taxpayer money. One of the other things, use of force reviews. Applications of force are often complex and chaotic and very challenging for our officers to catch everything that happens in the time of stress. Body-worn camera footage can greatly assist in documenting and investigations of these incidents. And I already mentioned the de-escalation that they normally provide. The U.S. Department of Justice strongly recommends body-worn cameras. I also, over the past several weeks, have spoke with Middlesex District Attorney Marion Ryan regarding our body-worn camera program. And her office fully supports these throughout Middlesex County. In addition, the latest strategic plan for the town of Chelmsford strongly recommended exploring the implementation of body-worn cameras. Also, it will assist us with our recruitment. Many officers that are coming out of the police academies that would like to either transfer or come to departments want body-worn cameras. It supports the officers. The video can also be utilized to modify our training practices. As Sergeant Zeminski can demonstrate, it is extremely helpful to be able to see what is happening during these serious incidents and basically step back and go, okay, how could we have done this differently? It's extremely important. Body-worn cameras demonstrate the Chelmsford Police Department's commitment to modern and professional policing. As far as funding, which is always the main question, we're currently seeking both state and federal grant funding to purchase body-worn cameras. and to equip all members of the police department with these devices. The grants will cover the purchase price of the body-worn camera and both the hardware and software to roll out the body-worn camera system. This will include the storage of video that was recorded by our officers. The one thing that was up until about 5 years ago that was very difficult was the storage, because the storage was normally cloud-based, reoccurring amount of money every year, extremely expensive. That, with the program we're looking at now, that cost is eliminated with the exception of the server purchase, which, as I'll go into, the server is going to be purchased under this grant, the first server, which will be good for approximately 3 to 5 years. I've met with all 3 of our police unions, the patrol union, the sergeants union, and the commanders union. And we have agreed in principle to a 1% salary increase effective July 1st, 2026, upon full implementation and use of the body-worn cameras. Union negotiations of the body-worn camera is necessary in order to apply for this grant funding. This implementation and salary increase is contingent upon receiving full grant funding for the purchase of all the needed cameras and equipment to implement the program. As I've mentioned earlier, we have an outstanding group of police officers, and they are committed to building and maintaining trust, accountability, and professionalism within our community. The company we are currently dealing with that is on the state bid list is called Access Communications. This is another excellent benefit to the town of Chelmsford. They are located right in town on Apollo Drive. We have a long-standing relationship currently. They handle the majority of the cameras that are in the police station. In addition, the school department. And if we do go to a body-worn camera program, it will integrate with our current camera servers that we currently run in the station. A little bit on the body-worn cameras. They can live stream events during emergency situations. We can actually log in and see what the officer is seeing. It's high definition video and audio, which I'm going to show you in a moment. There's multi-layers of encryption to block any kind of illegal access. And it's about a 15-hour battery life per device.
Go to the video.
What you're going to see here is the walking through a parking lot.
Ready? Play it.
Yep. And this is just a sample of what the officers will be wearing. The mount will be a little bit different. Now, as you can see as you're walking through, this is mounted on the officer's chest, I believe, much like Sergeant Zeminski. The body-worn cameras, even if that is shaking up and down, it stabilizes the image. As you can see, it is extremely crisp as far as what we observe with the cameras themselves. Now, this is actually from the actual parking lot of Access Communications. Now, as far as implementation of this program, at the beginning of the officer's shift, they will check out the body-worn camera. It's all done electronically with key fobs. So they basically swipe the camera that is assigned to them. They take the camera, it's charged, ready to go. Throughout the shift, the officer activates the camera. It is the large button that's on the front. In addition to that level of activation, if they turn on the lights, that will activate automatically. So if the officer's in a stressful situation, they turn on the lights. If they draw their firearm, it also activates immediately. So those are some of the things as far as so the officers don't forget to activate the body-worn cameras.
How does it do that? How does it?
There's a box in the back of each cruiser that connects to the lights basically. And then the fire alarms at Bluetooth, that's all Bluetooth, right?
Oh, it's Bluetooth.
Activated, yeah.
Oh, interesting.
So it's very advanced. Obviously, our expectation is the officer will hit that. There's also a capability that if you go to a major call, all the cameras go on automatically once one person puts it on. So if somebody is rolling around on the ground, somebody else arrives, that camera automatically goes on because it knows it's in range of the others.
Interconnected.
Yes. Now, we've already developed a policy that we've met with the unions on because that is another requirement of the grant. Examples of when the body-worn camera is activated. Motor vehicle stops, obviously, is probably one of the major ones. Arrests, any use of force. Pretty much any interaction with the public, we will be activating the cameras. At the end of the shift, the officers dock their assigned body-worn cameras. They basically go into these racks, and the server automatically downloads the footage and the tagged events. One of the things that is beneficial is during discovery, the district attorney can automatically access the footage. So they have that right away. Also included in the grant funding is outfitting each cruiser with the system that automatically activates the body-worn cameras, which I discussed. I already discussed the firearms also. That will be activated based on the Bluetooth signal. And just in closing, body-worn cameras are not just equipment. They're our commitment to obtain the highest levels of integrity, fairness, professionalism, and supporting our community trust. By embracing body-worn cameras, we strengthen our relationship with our community. And I'm here to take any questions that you may have.
Just interested, the DA can access immediately, upon discovery and so on. Are they accessing your server, or are they coming to you and saying,
In the end, they'll be accessing
want...
our server, normally through the court prosecutor. So we have a court prosecutor that's assigned to the court.
Okay.
So he will have automatic access right into the system to give them what they need. So it helps us on the day of arraignment. That's one of the problems that some departments have with some of the older systems. They actually have to either email it to the DA. We will have access right there, right at the courthouse.
Excellent.
So, how secure is that to their uniform? I mean, it looks like it's just a clip that clips it.
So that's not actually what it's going to be. I think Sergeant Zeminski, there's a bunch of different mounts.
That one is made for the external vest, where this is a magnet system. So it's a hard pull to get it off. Can it fall off? None of our gear is stapled on, so they do the best what they can with that.
Okay, and I understand it's only while they're on duty, but do you have to be wearing a uniform to be required to wear one of these? If somebody's in plain clothes?
It depends on what activity, what their role is. If they're not going to be out going to calls, our expectation is going to be if they're going to a call, they need to have this on. And unless they're in an undercover role, obviously, we're not going to have, but we're going to have some modified ones for detectives that they will have access to, that they can just basically pull out and put on, depending on the situation.
Okay.
If they're in an undercover role.
Yeah, and just lastly, since you working with the union, this is not going to be a voluntary program. It's going to be required of all
It will be required,
officers.
yes.
Okay.
Yes, and that's one, it'll be right in the union contract, a 1% compensation. That's pretty much the industry standard. The town manager and I have looked, that's pretty much the industry standard. So that is what Bill Ricca just agreed to also.
Chief, could you, not to interrupt, could you just, because I did more of a presentation, could you describe when they're turned off and what the right of privacy is for people, like in their homes and so forth? Just so that way, not only this board, but the community can understand when the cameras would be deactivated?
So in certain situations, a victim may ask for the camera to be shut off. But if we go to, say we go to a domestic call and we go into a home. So we go into somebody's home and the neighbor requests the footage. Public records request comes to us, okay? We do not have to share that under rights of privacy. So that's something that we would basically be like, nope, you're not getting that. It is gonna be scrutinized before we release any of this footage.
Who authorizes the release? Is it you?
We'll follow the public records law. So public records law, basically, if you're in a private, under the rights of privacy, nobody has to know about the husband-wife situation and what happened on that domestic. That's just not the public's right to know. So we would not release that.
So it falls under the same rules as any public records
Exactly.
request?
Exactly. Exactly. Now, as far as, I mean, generally, during an incident, they'll be running the whole time. That's our expectation. The policy is pretty straightforward. When you're interacting with somebody, it's supposed to be on. You have to do a report if for some reason, if you forget to turn it on, if something happens, you would basically have to write a full report, and there could be discipline that's involved.
In order to get the grants that are gonna pay for all this, the 1% was part of the negotiating with the unions was part of that. If we didn't do that, then no grant, correct?
You have to sit down and negotiate with the unions, because what had happened years ago, so that's a state grant, it's $185,000, I think is what we're asking for from the state. One of the things you have to, years ago, places did not negotiate, so they got the grant, got the equipment, never used it.
And then the union refused to
Yep. The union
enforce the use of it?
Exactly.
So
But
again-
I'm fortunate enough that the union agreed. You know, I think our unions, we have 3 unions, and I think that they've really embraced it because it protects them. It does.
And so it's the 1% the first year that they go in, that's the, sort of the buy-in, so to speak? And then that opens up all the grants for this to be completely funded by a grant?
It will be completely funded by the grant, as long as we get it. Obviously, if we don't get the grant, then we're not paying the 1%.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to make sure I tied those two together.
Yeah, I'm a little bit confused about that also, because we have pre-negotiated contracts with the union. So how is that to be implemented in a future
It's
contract?
called midterm bargaining or a side letter with the union. So
They will retro pay
because
it or
because
something?
we're in an existing contract, we basically would have just a sheet of paper that says, the town and the union agree that the town will implement body-worn cameras upon receipt of the grant, and upon that date, which we believe would be fiscal year '27, that the union would receive a 1% adjustment to their pay schedule.
It would be retro.
No, it would be going forward, because we would get the grant before we would implement this. So, but it would go forward. There's no backwards. So it wouldn't have any.
It would be within a current
It would be
contract.
within the current contract.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
And that's a standard for any midterm, you have a duty to bargain any change of working conditions, and this is a change of working conditions, because they'd be wearing a body-worn camera. So that's how it is. I think the reason it comes up now is society and community has had 10 years of experience with these things actually out in the field
Yeah.
in terms of the area, and you don't want to be the first one to jump into the pool. And so, we now can see these, and we see them operating effectively in our neighboring communities, such as Billerica and Burlington and Bedford and so forth. And then I think the other aspect of it is, it's now almost expected more by the public, because you can't go on a newscast or any television program without seeing, here's the camera footage of the incident and so forth. And so I think that's it. And I think the last piece is, don't forget the amount of turnover we've had. What percentage of the force has turned over since you've been chief in 3 years in terms of retirements?
35%.
Yeah.
Generally from retirements, because they're all hired in 1994.
Yeah. So I think you have a generation now that's grown up with video, and as the chief said in his presentation, they're expecting this when they come to the position, that's part of the norm. And I think it's not so much, we can't sit there and say, we've got problems that we're trying to challenge with Chelmsford in terms of behavior. It's more, I think, if you're an officer, because this was the concern with the whole police reform and so forth, is would they be subject to false claims and liability and as an officer? And I think what this does is this helps remove that cloud, because unfortunately in today's world, people will make an allegation of anything to anybody, against anybody. And I think what this does is say, no, it's not your word versus the officer's word. This is what happened. And
Well, yeah,
believe me,
that's why I'm a little confused,
Right.
because it seems like a protection for them, so.
Exactly.
So in
And that's
a
why-
union
that's why-
negotiation,
that's
I'm
why-
not sure why there's a salary bump as if it's a hardship, actually.
It's
a little bit.
just the way that it folds out over time in terms of their expectation. At the end of the day, Aaron, it equalizes because it becomes uniform. Then you're just comparing your pay rates across all the communities
Yes,
anyway.
yeah.
And so this is sort of the interim step where, in the early years, when you were in those initial communities, Ipswich and so forth, they were getting 3-5% to implement body-worn cameras. Now it's basically 1%. That's what you see in Billerica, and that's what you're seeing out there. And again, it's more just of an equalizer now, because when you go, the next time you go to the bargaining table, it's like, okay, well, here are comparable towns, and 75% of them have body-worn cameras anyway, so what's your pay level? So it just becomes part of the norm in that condition.
I guess I want to, we're going to we would apply for grants and receive grants to implement these. So 5 years, first of all, what's the longevity of a camera? How long should we expect it to last? And then let's assume it's 5 years. The town would be on the hook. Maybe that's a poor choice of words, but the town would be responsible for future purchase of those cameras, and how many cameras are there, and what size grant are we talking, and just to get an understanding of cost, aside from the 1%, just the actual cameras themselves and so on.
So basically what we're looking at, they come with 3-year warranties.
Okay. Good.
Probably, I think the estimated life's about 5 years is what they estimate per camera. It's about $1,000 a camera. Okay. A lot of it is the infrastructure that's inside the server. That's another expense. That's about 3 to 5 years. So I just think, as far as planning financially, I would say that the server is going to be every 5 years. The cameras themselves, they're $1,000 each. They're probably going to go down as more and more departments start getting them. We're blessed to have access in town here, because if we have a problem, they're right here.
Yeah, so what's the cost, though? And what's the grant?
So the grant's for $185,000.
Okay.
So if we looked at it now, but I think it'll be less than that when we go to replace them, because you're not going to have to replace everything.
And how many cameras are we purchasing?
60 total.
Okay. And then there's costs behind that also, for like
Yes.
the implementation, the video and everything else.
Yes, exactly.
So what is kind of the estimated cost over, I don't know, a certain period of time?
Well, for the next pretty much 5
what you're
years,
trying to get
this
at?
grant has funded all the equipment we're going to need for 5 years. So we won't be revisiting it in 5 years. We will be, in 5 years, we'll have to say.
Maybe, well, there might be another grant.
Yeah,
Potentially,
there could
or
be
something.
potentially another grant if they mandate them. That's the other thing. I do believe that this grant program, this was delayed this year by over a month, and I think it may end up going away. That's another issue that we're looking at, as more and more departments have already utilized it. I know I've been contacted by 2 chiefs in the area. When they found out that we were going for body-worn cameras, they want all the information about the negotiations and everything, because they're going to apply for the grant. And that is due December 1st. So that's kind of how this developed pretty quickly. We had already met with the unions before the grant was released, so we're a little bit ahead of the game, that was already done in place. When was the grant released? Yeah, about 3 weeks ago. So we already have everything in place. We're just looking for your approval for the next step.
And do we have a sense, rough numbers, of what the 1% cost is?
It's about $76,000
Annually?
annually.
Okay.
Yes.
So Pat, to your point, I think the Police Foundation would be more than willing to help 5 years from now if we need to purchase new equipment.
Oh, I would go to every community resource that we have in order to make that happen. I think it's great. It's awesome for this town. I really truly believe that, and the officers believe that. And I think it's gonna put us at a whole different level of policing. I truly think it's,
I think the cost question for me is, what's the cost if we don't do this? I mean, I think that's a bigger number.
Oh, yeah, no, and I asked the question only because I'm sure I'm not the only one thinking about it, so
I was
just for the
too.
general
Yeah,
public.
I was
so
too.
it's,
absolutely.
You know, so.
And not just dollar cost, too, is.
Right, right, that's what
Oh,
I'm saying, I think
absolutely.
it's bigger, so.
Well, it's also liability against the town. It may be liability for the officer, but there could be
Liability against the
liability
town.
for the town also that's
Absolutely.
negated because of that.
But if these guys that are out doing it on the street are saying, we want these things, that's pretty telling to me too, so. And if that's what they need, that's what they should have.
Thank you.
So we're gonna take a vote?
Sure.
I'm ready. I will make a motion to, to approve the police chief's pursuit of the grant for, and successful negotiations with the police unions to implement and pursue the use of body cameras by all officers in town.
And
As
authorize,
presented.
and authorize the town authorize the town manager to enter into agreements with the 3 police unions at an amount not to exceed 1% for the implementation of the program. So that way, because what that allows me to do is then sign those papers, give it to the chief so he can submit the application by December 3rd. Yep.
Okay, so moved.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you very much, everybody.
Chief.
I
Thank
truly
you.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Best of luck.
Thank
with that.
you. Okay, next we have another report or presentation from our operations assistant, James Garrity.
Yep.
Status update on the strategic plan and a report about the Citizens Academy also.
Yeah, members of the board, this is my assistant, James Garrity, and I'm going to embarrass him at the moment but because this is his first presentation to the board. But more importantly, last Friday, James just completed a training program. And James, just take a moment, just explain to the board what you did and what it entailed, because I think it just speaks to his development and what we're doing here as a community to support our employees, so.
Sure. So over the past 5 Fridays, I've been participating in the MMA Suffolk Municipal Financing Budget course. So I've been doing deep dives into all the different financing departments that help make a town run, from structure of government to the assessor's office. So Sam Chase's presentation was enlightening. We talked about that and that and that. Talked about the role of the finance director, town treasurer, town accountant, and how to structure information so the town can make informed decisions when it comes to its financial policies. So.
Great, I just want to recognize, because sometimes you see the Beacon or the MMA publication, they talk about their affiliation with Suffolk University and the training programs, and James is now a credential graduate of those programs. And so what brings him here tonight, coincidentally, is James has also been the leader in terms of the community engagement part of our strategic plan operation, so that's what he'll be presenting this evening.
Great. Thank you, Paul, and good evening, everyone. I'm excited to be here, and I know we've had a lot of reports tonight, so I'll do my best to keep this brief but informative. So as we all know, earlier this year, the town adopted the first strategic plan for Chelmsford. And in that strategic plan, it calls for exploring community engagement, assessing it, and finding opportunities to improve it. And trying to figure out how we can cultivate a culture of active participation, collaboration, and ensure that we have informed residents and that their voices are represented. So we can skip over to the next slide. So back in June, the Community Engagement Task Force, and I'll be referring to it as a task force, was created. And it was charged with fulfilling the community engagement part of the strategic plan, assessing Chelmsford's current conditions for communications with its residents and how we go about cultivating community engagement, and presenting recommendations to the select board by mid-November. And I'm here, so we met that goal. The task force members was made up of a variety of town employees from across the town, and everyone who participated in the task force really gave unique perspectives that helped to make this report as strong as it is. So right in June, when we got started, we all quickly realized that the media landscape is complicated. If you do any kind of research on current communications, you'll quickly hear a phrase that communications and marketing has changed more in the past 20 years than in the previous 200 years. Every couple years, there's a new way and a new system to communicate with people, to grab people's attention. And in our research, what we discovered is that there are really two key elements that town officials need to focus on when it comes to community engagement and communications. The first is that there are about 5 categories of media that we should pay attention to, from traditional media, digital, mobile messaging, different online platforms, and then in-person communications as well. And what we learned through studying all these is that Chelmsford residents have a tremendous amount of media options available to them. If they get bored on Facebook, they can go to YouTube. If they're watching football and they get bored, they can decide to start messaging a relative who lives halfway around the world. And this leads to another phenomenon that we discovered, which we can go to the next slide. It's something called the attention economy. Basically, communication experts and marketers know that your attention is the most valuable currency in the world right now. If they can get you to focus on their issue, their product, their candidate, they're going to be able to get your money, your resources, or your vote. So people build careers off of just grabbing your attention. There are people who literally build careers around just designing YouTube thumbnails and titles so their channel can get more views than their competitor's channel. And that has a lot of effects on town's communications. Our traditional media outlets of doing legal ads in the newspapers or having public meetings or gathering people together are slowly being pushed aside by the rise of social media platforms where everything is optimized to fulfill the algorithm. Algorithms unintentionally give people content they want to see. For example, I really like cooking, so my Facebook feed is full of cooking videos, but I hardly ever see anything about sports because I don't follow sports as closely as other people do. So if I'm curious about the Patriots, I have to actively look up different Patriot stats on Facebook in order for the algorithm to push that material to me. And essentially what that means is even though the town is trying its best to push communications out to residents, to get information out to residents, if residents aren't actively or aren't actively interacting with us on social media or other digital platforms, they aren't seeing everything we're putting out there, and they kind of forget that we're doing stuff. So we can go to the next slide. So as we wrapped up our research of the media landscape, we started diving into the town's current communications and community engagement methods, and we got some numbers which are enlightening. One is that our website gets about 20,000 views a month, and most of those views are for transactional purposes, people paying their taxes, using GIS mapping, or finding information for trash recycling. Very few views go to board and committee pages, and a handful go to department pages. This means that boards and committees can have a tremendously designed web page, but only 24 people look at it a month, and half of those might be bots, which means that the website, even though it's chock full of information, isn't great at getting the reach that a lot of board or committees need to promote all the activities that they're doing. We have over 24 different social media accounts across platforms. Some are super engaged. They post on a regular basis. They have thousands of followers. Others only post once or twice a year to promote an event the committees or departments doing, and others are just dormant, and those get incredibly low views. Digital newsletters and physical newsletters are rising upwards and becoming more popular. The Senior Center does a physical newsletter with about 2,000 readers. The library has the most popular email newsletter with about 6,700 subscribers. And the town manager recently adopted to an email newsletter and already has 2,400 subscribers. And the CCA and the health department have recently launched theirs with about 27 and 1,000 subscribers, respectively. And what's most important about the email subscribers is the open rate. In email marketing, if you have an open rate of about 20%, meaning somebody clicked on your email and read it, that's a really good number. The town newsletters have about a 55 to 70% open rate. That is a tremendously high number, and what that shows is that people who sign up for the newsletters are really engaged and care about what's going on in the town. And then continuing on with the assessment on the next slide, we also have the trash recycling app, which has about 5,000 downloads, and Telemedia boasts over 10,000 views a month and 3,600 subscribers for their channel. And what we realized as we were gathering all these numbers is that numbers only tell part of the story. We wanted to hear from department heads and board and committee chairs about how they view communications. So we launched a survey, and we learned 3 key things from that survey. One being that most town leaders, so department heads, board or committee chairs, recognize the need for improving communications. We learned that a variety of boards, committees, departments are experimenting with different ways of communicating with residents, whether it's different social media channels, different types of content, or ways of getting people to the website. And we also learned that different departments and different boards and committees try different strategies on how to produce those communications or those community engagement efforts. Some have dedicated employees, and others kind of assign it ad hoc depending on what's needed, and the results vary based on how much effort or time the communications get. And what we heard overall was a clear need from department heads and board and committee chairs is that they need guidance and structure from the select board and town manager on how should they be doing communications and what kind of resources should they be pursuing. So as we continued with our assessment, we dove a little bit deeper into the strategic plan, and we defined a few of the key terms from this plan. We spent a couple days talking about who an informed resident is, and we decided that this type of resident is someone who knows how the structure of government works. They know what the select board does versus the Board of Health. They are engaged with the different key elements or decisions that are currently being made. They know where to get information from, and they also understand who they need to ask questions to when they don't understand something. And when it comes to active participation and collaboration, this builds off of informed residents. This happens when people come together and serve on boards or committees. They get their voices heard with surveys. They are engaged with community events, and they help to kind of get the spark that Chelmsford has with it to keep it going, to keep it moving forward. We also talked a little about what the role of the town government is when it comes to increasing our community engagement and participation or communications. And we realized that it is not the role of the town government to compel public engagement or interests. Instead, it's our role, if you kind of think of it kind of like a storefront or a store window, it's our job to make sure that when a resident is interested in what's going on, they're able to find the information that's accurate and trustworthy, it's accessible to them, and it's easy to find. If they want to get involved, they see ways that they can attend meetings, join a board or committee, or help improve their community in different ways that they can get involved. We also have a strategic opportunity right now. Through the different surveys that we did with board and committee chairs and other committee members, we realized there's an active interest in improving our communications and our community engagement efforts. People are willing to do the work to make this happen. They just need to know where to go. We also have a healthy committee vacancy rate. It's about, probably after tonight's appointments, are going to be under 4%. And that means that boards and committees aren't struggling to attract members to allow the committees to even meet and to be able to function. But if somebody is interested in joining, they have different choices that they can choose from to fit their goals. Can move on to the next slide. So when it comes to the recommendations that we're doing, when we were brainstorming and coming up with these, we had 2 key things that we wanted to share. One being is that we did think about recommending hiring a communications director. It would solve a lot of our struggles that we're facing. However, with the town's current finances and where we're forecasted to be with our current finances, we didn't think it would be a sustainable recommendation to make. But we do think it's important for town leaders to continue to think about what that kind of role might look like, especially in future years. We also saw that with a lot of our ideas, they all needed a strong foundation in order to build off of. So that's why our first 3 recommendations we're calling foundational recommendations. And these are designed to give the town that strong foundation to build successful communications and community engagement off of. So our first main idea or recommendation is to update and enhance our social media policy and communications policy and use that to springboard and create a social media strategy for the town. Our second idea or recommendation is to integrate communications into job descriptions, so whether that be department heads or key employees. And we're not asking them to create viral Facebook content or to create TikTok videos that go viral. Rather, it's about ensuring that the website is up to date, that they create communications that are clear and easy for residents to understand, and that they dedicate some time to make sure that these communications are sufficient for what their department or board or committee that they're supporting is attempting to do. And finally, which we're going to hear about after this report, is creating a Citizens Academy. This was based off of realizing that if we're able to get a group of residents who want to learn more and be able to engage with the town in a more meaningful way, we should give them a space where they can learn some of the details to make the town run. And this will be a multi-week program to teach them how local government works, why decisions that we're making tonight matter in their day-to-day life, and how they can learn how to influence those decisions. We also outlined a few other additional steps or recommendations that the town should take, one being building a brand guide, having communications and materials that are cohesive in how they look, not only looks professional, but it builds trust. We should provide website training to town employees. Civic Plus hosts the town's website, and it's a very powerful tool, but if you don't know what you're doing, it's incredibly confusing and frustrating. They also provide a lot of free resources that, if it's combed through, can create a pretty powerful training document. We should also work to create better supporting materials for boards and committees. These are all run by volunteers, and we should be able to help give them some resources that they need. So if they want to publish a news flash about an upcoming meeting where they're doing a survey, or they have a large event coming up and they want to attract more people to come in, we should help give them some tools or some processes on how to promote these or increase engagement. And then finally, increase our social media utilization. This is based off of the first foundational recommendation, but this might just mean experiment maybe with different videos or different styles of posts to see if we're able to increase our engagement or get more people to pay attention to the content. And then finally, establish KPIs, which is a marketing lingo term for key point indicators. And basically, this way, what this would do is we can start to measure how successful our communications and community engagement efforts are, and then measure them year after year or time frame after time frame, and see if we're succeeding or if we need to adjust something, or if we're meeting our goals. So overall, this is a pretty intensive, if we want to increase our communications, it's going to be a big push. It's not simple, but by focusing on this, we can increase our effectiveness communications with residents, we can build a resilient communications infrastructure, and this can help us see a lot of communications growth with our town residents. And one last slide as well. I just want to give a shout out and a thank you to everyone who participated in the Community Engagement Task Force. I definitely could not have done this by myself, and they all brought a lot of valuable insights, and they took a lot of time out of their already busy day to help make this happen. And also want to say thank you to everyone who participated in a few of the surveys that we sent out. Those were very insightful, and their participation mattered a lot. So thank you. Happy to help answer any questions.
Thanks, James.
I feel like we should be giving James a round of applause.
Thank you.
Anybody have any questions, comments? Great.
Yeah.
Okay, and you're gonna do the.
Yeah. So I
you
also
have
attached.
more to say about
Yep.
the community task force.
Yep, I also attached a more formal write-up of the presentation, so if you get curious over the weekend or later in the week, if you have a question, feel free to reach out.
I would like to comment on their recommendations, though.
Yeah.
I think those are spot on, as I was kind of making notes, going through this the other day and through this presentation. Those kind of hit all of the things that I was.
Awesome,
I think I would like to see. I think the first two are really important. Again, I'm not a fan of social media anymore, but I think it's how two things the data said to me. People are looking to these newsletters and maybe that's the replacement for the newspaper. And if those are well done,
yeah,
kind of chock full of information but easy to read, so like the content and the
Yeah.
design matters and the frequency matters. But I think having a social media try to reach the elusive people that we try to reach that just they don't necessarily participate. I would like to see some. I know investment in bodies right now is a little bit challenging, but there are ways for us to get that support, I think, and
Yeah.
Via some of the high school kids that are interested in that for a career or for college interns or those types of things. And I really like the idea of the Citizens Academy, and I think that should be something that's for all ages, and if that can be designed in a way where if you want to understand what the planning board does and what their legal authority was and what their charter is, you could come and learn something like that to know if you need to attend the meetings or the select board or any of the other programs. So, but I would want to see that encouraged for all ages, especially the teenagers that are the future leaders.
Starts January 27th, so.
Yeah,
you're
so
gonna
if you
see
want
it
to
soon.
come attend some of the classes and, yeah.
So I think this is fantastic, actually.
Yeah, awesome. And just to comment quickly on two of the points that you made, email marketing or email communications is one of the most effective means to reach people. Social media unintentionally hides things you might be interested in. Email is still timeline-based. If I send an email to you, you're going to see the email one way or the other. And when it comes to social media, what's probably going to be most effective for the town is going to be that storefront or store window approach. If we have content, maybe people don't follow us, but when it comes to the country fair and they're like, oh, what time does it start? They go to Facebook and they see a few posts about it. Oh, awesome, super helpful. Or why did my taxes go up again? Oh, the tax classification, I should pay attention to that next year. That type of content will reach people a lot and probably be effective.
I definitely like This Week in the Town Manager's Office by James. 10 minutes of TikTok video.
Oh boy. Well, anyway, diving into the recommendation for the Citizens Academy, unless anybody else has any other questions. Awesome. So as we just talked about with the Community Engagement Task Force recommendations, we recommended a Citizens Academy. And basically, what this academy is going to be is if you think of town information like an onion, most people see the onion skin. Some people who might pay attention to board or committee meetings might see the first layer of the onion. The Citizens Academy is going to be a deep dive into the second or third layer of the onion. So rather than residents just knowing that the DPW maintains the roads, they're going to learn about how the DPW makes decisions about what roads they maintain on what years, and the different factors that go into how they maintain the roads, and coordinate different efforts among sewer infrastructure or water infrastructure, et cetera. Right now, we're planning on making this ages 16 plus, just because a lot of this information is going to be fairly high level, and translating it into middle school age level or elementary school age level would require very different types of information formatting. But as we move forward, if we decide we want to lower the age to all high schoolers or middle schoolers, those can be discussions that we'll have in future years. This is going to be an 8-week course, predominantly on Tuesday evenings as of right now, and to be separated into 2 one-hour lesson blocks with a half-hour break in between where we would probably provide like a light dinner, like some pizza or salads. And the goal is going to be to build a knowledgeable base of residents who are informed, can have informed conversations, and ideally be inspired to want to serve on a board or committee, become a town meeting rep, or attend meetings and make sure that their voice is going to get heard. And one of my favorite parts about doing this part of the project was reaching out to the other communities who've had Citizens Academies for the past couple of years. After watching the MMA webinar about Citizens Academies, I reached out to Bridgewater and Danvers, Massachusetts, and the town manager in Bridgewater and, not Bridgewater, Barnstable. Town manager in Barnstable, who's been leading this academy or being part of it for over 25 years, and then the assistant town manager in Danvers, they each couldn't say enough of the positive attributes that Citizens Academy brought to their town. I also talked to the Tingsboro town manager, who's been leading his for a couple of years. He had a lot of positive things to say about it. And the assistant town manager in Easton also had a lot of positive things to say about how it brought community together. It brought people who had a lot of ill-informed questions about different processes in the town. They were able to start asking more informed questions, and some of them even became community leaders. And this also aligns with a select board goal of exploring Citizens Academies, and it aligns with a strategic plan to increase community engagement. And attached to this memo was the rough outline of the schedule. As we're talking to department heads and their schedules, it's being tweaked slightly, but overall, different departments are going to have either a whole hour block or parts of an hour block to talk about some of the key topics. We're going to start by going through about the structure of town government, town meeting, how some of the departments like IT, human resources play a role in how the town runs. That will be Paul's moment to shine. And then we'll go into like how the town clerk runs through it, and then a variety of other topics from town financing to fire, police, DPW, human services, library. And then, depending on how the schedule ends, a call to action for people to get more involved with us.
Well, the town clerk's social media posts are definitely entertaining.
Oh, yes. It's fun watching
They're
them create the videos.
They're so
Like seeing one of them just continuous to fall into leaves and wondering if you need to call the EMTs and you realize it's a video.
They're so funny.
Yeah.
I have a few questions
Sure.
on this. First of all, the name of it. If you look at our goals, it says one of the goals is to create a civic academy, not a citizens academy. And I kind of have an issue with the word citizens because I think that if somebody is not a citizen of this country, they might, kind of feel like they're not inclusive. I think that, civic is, in the previous report, you never said citizen, you said resident all the way through it, which I really like.
Oh,
Yeah.
resident
Yeah.
versus citizen.
So anyway, I don't know, just something to consider,
Yeah.
changing it to civic academy.
No, those are all good points.
And also, so you're gonna accept applications for this?
Yep.
Is it gonna be, what's it gonna be, just an email to you or to the committee, or how are they gonna be selected?
Yeah, so they'll be selected through the town manager's office.
Mhm.
And we have an application process because we can only effectively run this with about 20 to 25 residents who are involved. And we want to make sure that if somebody like Sam Chase, who's been around Chelmsford forever, if it's down to him versus somebody who recently moved to Chelmsford who's thinking about wanting to get involved but they don't know anything about town government, it should go to the new resident.
Sure.
And I think somebody like Sam Chase would understand.
Be a presenter, in fact.
Exactly.
But,
and
yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah. So that's predominantly why we want to have the application process.
Okay, so you're thinking that you won't have too tough a decision to make as far as to scale it down? Okay.
It's the first year we're doing it, so I don't want to make a prediction. I don't want to make an uneducated prediction.
Uh-huh.
From all the other communities, none of them said they ever had any major issues with their application process.
And what's gonna be on the application, like why they're interested in it, or?
Yeah, if you look at Danvers's application, theirs is pretty intense, but it's how long have you lived in town? Do you serve on boards and committees? How long have you been serving? How long have you been involved? Why do you want to participate?
Mhm.
Can you attend all the nights?
Mm.
If we have somebody who can only attend 4 out of the 8 nights and somebody who can attend all 8 nights, we're going to give it to the person who can attend all 8 nights and get the most out of it.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Sure.
Okay. Anybody else?
Great job.
Yeah,
you.
Thank you,
great.
James.
Thanks,
Good job.
James.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Okay, next up, we have one more presentation. We're gonna hear from the Chelmsford Dog Park Advisory Committee. Hi. With a request to raise the minimum age of children allowed in the Chelmsford Dog Park.
Hi, how's it going?
Thank you for waiting so patiently.
Rigor mortis was setting in, but we pulled through it. This presentation is not nearly as technical as anything you guys have been hearing all night. And before I get into the nuts and bolts of that, before I start, I have one quick question for the town manager. And are you willing to light the big tree on at the Prelude next week,
yeah,
a couple
yeah,
weeks?
yeah.
Awesome, okay. We're getting things done. All right, my name is Vivian Merrill. I'm the current chair of the Dog Park Advisory Committee. I am here tonight with a couple other committee members, Danielle and Arthur Corsino, as well as the president of the Chelmsford Dog Association, Lisa Grasso, and our request is pretty straightforward. When we first opened up the Chelmsford Dog Park, it was about 10 years ago. We were one of the first dog parks in the area. When we were establishing our rules and regulations and things, we really didn't have a whole lot to go with. We kind of did what made sense to us at the time approach. And we got a lot of input from a lot of different places, but there really wasn't a lot of hard facts out there. And as time goes on and more parks have been created and things like that, we're kind of looking at what they're doing. And we've been talking about this for like the last year or so. It's like, should we raise the minimum age of children that are allowed into the park? I mean, currently we're seeing a trend where very, very young children are going into the park, and it's kind of scary because we have a lot of big dogs there. They run fast, they run hard. We've had issues with adults getting hurt. I mean, we got people going in there with baby carriages, and when you got your volunteers going, did you take a look at the rules? And they're like, no, we didn't even see the sign. And it's like 4 feet tall by 3 feet wide, and there's 3 of them in there. So, I mean, getting people to kind of follow the spirit of what we'd like to see at the park has been challenging. And I think this is like a first easy step to try to tackle some of those issues with getting people to recognize that the rules are there for a reason. We had Arthur do a survey of various parks, which is the chart you're looking at. We've got 6 parks that the minimum age is 8 years old. We've got 6 parks that the minimum age is 12 years old. 10 seems to be a reasonable compromise. Are we married to a number? We're really not. It's whatever you guys think is reasonable. Do we need to change it at all? It's more or less up to you. This is just something that we have been talking about and we think should be changed. And then we can work on how we design the signage and things like that from there if we do make a change. And that's basically all I got. So open to questions. I don't know if you guys want to add anything.
You should note that the committee, we did vote on an age of 10.
We did. Yeah, we did recommend an age of 10 and we did vote on that.
Oh, an age of 10?
Yes.
Okay.
And like I said, that was based on the data you're looking at here. We felt it was reasonable.
So what would be your method of enforcement other than just signs? Because people, you know.
They're gonna do what they're gonna do anyway. I think from a town standpoint, it kind of makes us look more receptive with, hey, we told you your kid, you know, your kid was too young to be here and you did it anyway. So, I mean, the park is already used at your own risk. It more or less tries to cement that people should be looking at the rules and regulations. It gives them a more solid boundary. I mean, I know Laramie earlier spoke to having a height requirement. It's an interesting concept that we've never really thought about before. I mean, we've got full-grown adults that are taller than me that have been hit by a running dog and have gotten hurt pretty seriously.
But can I just say, it sounds like it might not be even the age requirement that's the issue, but the fact that people just aren't respecting it, right?
It's a
so,
fair
and Laramie
point.
mentioned the signage too.
Right.
Do you think that you need more signage or placed differently, or
We've
you
had
know?
those discussions for a number of years too, because I'm not a big fan of sign pollution, and after a while, people don't read them. Like I say, our volunteers, they do try to engage people to pay attention to what the
Yeah, it makes it
rules
easy
are.
if you have a big sign right in
And
the middle and they can
we
point
got
to
3
it,
of
you
them.
know?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've talked about different ways to try to get the rules more out there in a way that you can kind of see them, like be it a rule of the week program or some kind of contest. I mean, the CDA's done a variety of things to try to get people to think about the rules, and it's met with varying degrees of success or failure, so to speak, because a lot of people just don't want to be told what to do. It's been an ongoing problem. I mean, when you think about it, like I said, we've had full-grown adults get hurt by running dogs. I mean, we don't have any reports of kids getting hurt by dogs, but that could be very well because the parents know they're not supposed to be in there and they're not making a big deal out of it. I don't know.
So is there volunteer supervision at all times while the park is open?
No. The
So
volunteers.
there's
Force it when there's nobody.
Yeah. I mean, the volunteers are there, you know, trying to keep the park clean, you know, answering basic
So
questions.
it's all just by report of something, an incident or something like that?
It's
So
very
there's-
reactionary,
So
yes.
conversely, if you have a huge 100-pound dog that may be out of control, there's nobody there to say, your dog, or you need to contain your dog better, or any of
Right.
those types of things either.
It's more or less people talking to each other and fighting it out. That's what it comes down to.
Okay.
I mean, have people called the animal control officer? Have people called the police? They have. And there's varying degrees of success with what they're even able to do. You know, because by that point, the incident has happened. And a lot of the times, the people that are involved in these incidents, they just take off. Nobody even knows who they are. So, I mean, it's a tough situation. You know, we've been talking about this for over a year, trying to figure out what the best way is to grapple it, and I think this is a start.
I don't disagree with what you're saying. My only concern is the young family. You got 2 kids, one's 9, one's 6. You can only take 1 kid with you, and that's going to be a challenge. I'm sure.
It's a challenge now, because I think people like that go to the park early in the morning might be bringing their kids to school, and they're letting them run in the park just to burn off some steam or whatever. And what people are failing to realize is this is a park for dogs. It's not a park for your kids.
But some
And that's
people
a
have
tough,
some people
tough
have
thing.
kids and dogs, and if they
Yeah.
have to take the dog out and they have their kids all the time, like some of us do, it's hard
Right.
to not to have
Right.
both. So I see what you're saying, though.
Yeah.
I mean, have you thought about having like an observation area where the kids can like sit and watch the dogs in the
Is
dog
there
park
a
without
way you
actually
could
being
section
in
off
the
a
yeah.
10 by 20 area
Yeah.
to say if your child's in a baby carriage, you need to
Cage the
physically
kids in,
be
so to
here.
It's tough, because do you stay with your kid or do you watch your dog? I mean,
Oh well,
yeah.
no. I mean, I would put like I have a 10-year-old and 8-year-old twins,
Sure.
right?
That
And
big
I
that
would
you
put
can't
my
see.
8-year-olds in a fenced-in area with a bench while I let the dog run, and be like, "You guys, this is where the kids have to stay." You know, and I would be like, "You sit on the bench, you can watch all the dogs run around and play, but you can't come in with the dogs." You know, like I would be okay with that as a parent.
You want to come up to the
Maybe not
microphone?
like my 3-year-old to leave them in there and go away, but like people with like kids
That sounds
are
like you're
6,
having
7,
free daycare at the dog park or
Yeah.
something.
Which sounds wonderful, actually. So yeah,
I can speak to that a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I'm there a lot, and I do see people that do come in with their children. And I do say to them, if you'd like to, I can keep an eye on your dog while you're outside with your child, so that your child is not
Yeah.
at risk.
Yeah.
And most of the time, people are really receptive to that. So they can walk around the perimeter or the outside, or even be in the airlock area or the entrance with their child, so the child can actually interact with their dog too.
Yeah, you can walk around the fence and
Yep.
still see the whole thing. So like little kids that you wouldn't want unsupervised would be one thing, but kids that are 6, 7, 8, you could let them outside the fence and kind of
My biggest fear is that something does happen.
yeah.
And I don't want to be in charge when something does happen. I don't want to wait until something does happen and then have to react to it. I want to be able to be proactive. And a 6-year-old, and
Yeah.
if you look at your chart, we are the only dog park that lets 6-year-olds in.
Yeah, I wouldn't bring my 8-year-olds in the dog park. No way. I love dogs, but no, that's the wild. There's so many dogs. It gets a little crazy. Like I wouldn't bring my kids in there.
To that,
Yeah,
to,
too
to
much.
all of these points, so this, if it was, if we vote for, children must be 10 years old to go inside the dog park, so there would be no restriction, to Jeff's point, if he had a 10 and a 9-year-old, that 9-year-old could stand outside the fence. I mean, there's no restriction there. It's just strictly where the dogs are inside the
Yeah.
fenced area. Okay.
And that is also where the height requirement could come in, because there are some, well, I could say that somebody that meets this height requirement here can come into the dog park with their parents. But I can also say that a toddler is never gonna make that. And that's something I could point to a parent, and be like,
My
If he
only
doesn't take
concern there is I remember taking my grandson to an amusement park, and his sister got to go on a ride, and he didn't, and he had a meltdown. So I hate to have that line where you stigmatizing.
Well, you also need like a level of maturity, right, around that many
Yes.
dogs, where the age I think is maybe like a more
it's
appropriate.
the
even.
bigger thing. But I
Yeah.
can also say, hey, well, if you don't hit that height and your kid is obviously not 8 years old.
Yeah.
But we do get that kind of pushback all the time.
Yeah.
Well, yes, they are. How do you know it's not?
So what can we do for you guys besides, so you're looking to, for us to, do we have to authorize?
Yeah, you take a vote. Yeah,
We have to
yeah.
vote to change the age to 10, and then is there anything else that we can do for, as far as like the signage? Would it be helpful to
What
have
about
more
getting-
signage, to relocate the signs? Do you have any thoughts about that? Or I mean, you can come back to us if you
Well, they
want
can do
to
that without our
DPW, yeah,
permission,
DPW
right?
can,
Yeah.
as you know.
They don't need
Because
us
it
for
sounds
that.
like maybe the signs are kind of, maybe you need a sign that's more aggressive.
Do we get-
The dogs will bite your children. Yes.
We joked about having a little image of a dog running away with a child.
I mean, honestly, like maybe you need to have some more
Do we
aggressive
consider putting the
signage to make
temporary
people
bleachers
understand.
over there as a
I was
sitting
going to say,
area?
maybe developing an observation area could be
Yeah.
helpful.
Well, just so people
in
understand that it's
conjunction.
because it's dangerous, you know, so that it's, yeah, and an
A
observation.
family safety area, which I think would be
I like that.
a nice way to put it.
We'll work with DPAC and make sure that we can get the signage up and potentially an observation area that's safe for children to be in.
Okay. Do you want to
Give us something to work on.
Okay. I think, does anybody else have anything? Do you want to take a vote?
Sure.
Do you want to make a motion?
I'm fine,
You good?
yeah. I'll make a motion that we authorize the Dog Park Advisory Committee to increase the age limit of children allowed within the area of the dog park, to increase that age to 10 years old.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. You guys have a good night.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, next, we have a home rule petition
Yeah.
discussion.
Yeah, Madam Chair, we'll pick up the pace a little bit. This is a follow-up from town meeting. Town meeting authorized the vote on the SGARs, second-generation anticoagulant rodenticides. That authorized the select board to submit the home rule petition. So the action tonight would be for the board to vote to submit the home rule petition. Then I'll obviously send it off to our legislative delegation.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions about it or comments?
Yeah, and like I guess a super short answer. So we submit this,
Mhm.
and then
Wait.
if it
Then you
gets-
wait.
But if it gets granted,
Mhm.
then we can say within Chelmsford you can't
Well, we'd have to come back and go back to town meeting, adopt bylaws.
do a bylaw, and
Right,
then, I
right.
mean, again, assuming it passed now, it will pass the bylaw too. But otherwise, it's just waiting until the state decides to act on that.
Yes. Yeah, if they do. And there's other towns, as we know, ahead of us, including Billerica. And there's also statewide legislation that's been filed. So the hope would be something might get done by the end of this legislative term, which would be next year, within a year.
If they've got a dozen towns or whatever that are asking for the same thing, isn't it easy enough for them to just say, yeah, that you can have it?
They never did it on plastic bags or a number of other things that communities tried to restrict. So
We pay them, right?
yeah.
They'll be here next week.
You'll be here, you'll be here in 2 weeks.
Yeah, next week.
And they
Yeah,
know
next
that,
week-
they
next
know I
meeting.
like them too, but, all right, thank you.
Okay, I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion that the board approve the submission of the home rule petition as stated in the memo from the town manager to the state legislature as presented.
Second that.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next up, discussion topics for our upcoming meeting with the town's state legislative delegation.
Yeah, in your next meeting, 2 weeks on December 1st, Senator Mike Barrett will be here, Representative Rodney Elliott. Unfortunately, we just learned today that Representative Cataldo has a conflict, so he will not be joined, but he's going to send his legislative aide. And Representative Arciero was unable to attend. So the question becomes, in advance of this, is what is it that we wish to discuss with them? What I provided for you in your packet and what's displayed here, this is a memo that went from the Northern Middlesex Council of Governments, Executive Director Jenny Raitt, and basically she solicited the town managers to support the Municipal Empowerment Act, which is H56, House 56. And the reason I put it in the packet is I think it's a lot of the things that this board has talked about in terms of what we would ask our legislature to do, perhaps. The first one had to do with remote and hybrid meetings. That is not permanently installed in state statute. It's been a series of continuating resolutions to extend the deadline to allow for remote participation in hybrid meetings. So one request was to formalize this action. The other one was on procurement updates. One was to update the provisions under the procurement law that allows municipal purchasing up to $100,000 for school departments, but only $50,000 for bids for municipal governments. No one ever understood how it got through for the schools, but now when it did get through the last couple of years, and we've asked the governor, and the governor's included in her bill, is, well, why isn't it $100,000 for all municipal purchasing? So that's one. A couple of other ones that are.
Are they going to do that?
Well, that's what we're going to ask. We don't know. The legislature's held a hearing on this. They've broken it apart from the fiscal part to the, non-monetary part. So that would be. So we hope they'll do it. Some other municipal government items. One is to allow communities the option to increase the bond term for school construction projects, like what we're looking at for the Parker School. Could we extend that borrowing period from 30 years to 40 years? That would be an option. Right now, we cannot borrow for a school project that we know was going to serve our community into the next 40 to 50 years. We can only borrow it for a 30-year period. Obviously, like a home mortgage, if you borrowed for a 40-year period, you're going to pay more, just like a car loan. So we're not saying Chelmsford wants to do this, but what we're saying is give us the option, because obviously if you extend the note, just like extending a car loan, you can get the tax impact lower. The other thing is, if there were an emergency situation, like what happened in Leominster and some of the Western Mass communities where you had a severe weather event, the idea is you could amortize any kind of a deficit that a town would incur from an emergency over 3 years rather than 1 year in your budget process. Also, the one that I mentioned about every year at town meeting, the annual renewal of revolving funds, we have to revote them every year, which is ministerial. The idea would be you'd only have to go back and make a vote if you wish to change the amount. So that's what Section 39 is. And then Section 79, which is near and dear to our heart, this would enact financial penalties for double poll, non-removal, that after 90 days, that if they didn't do it, that we could impose financial penalties. And we know from our experience, despite our ongoing efforts, that the 90-day standard isn't being met. So that's a big part of what's going on. There are other things in the Municipal Empowerment Act, such as increasing the ability at the local level to increase the meals tax or the hotel excise tax and so forth. We as NIMCOG managers didn't get into that because we knew there were divided opinions amongst our executive boards and so forth. But those are the type of items. I think at this point, it's sort of following up on what we talked about at the tri-board meeting last week, is it comes down to, I think, the issues of what can the legislature do to be an effective partner with the cities and towns, and that had to do with the Chapter 70 formula, has to do with the unrestricted general government aid that's been underfunded, has to do with some of these non-monetary things. So I think that's where I'd like to start. And then again, if you had other items that you wish to discuss, I can send them to the legislators in advance of the meeting to give them a heads up that what they'll could anticipate in 2 weeks from tonight.
Well, if you remember, it was back in, March or April, it was before the election, for the other municipal empowerment act, 1.0 or whatever, we did send a letter and we had a list of things. And some of those are in here, and some, like OPEB, and like you said, local option taxes and exemptions from taxes for, maybe you want to review that too and see, what those, and then we also recently sent them a letter about that paint deposit thing, so we might follow up on that, see. And then the thing that we just talked about, home rule petition, those are things I would add on to the list.
Yeah, I think Pat just said some of the things that I was thinking of. Like, these things are good, and to me, I don't know why they don't just get done. They're kind of no-brainer, but then again, it's the State House, I guess this is how it operates. But it's those other things that have real financial impacts that we need these guys to support on. It's just, we're not the only towns that are suffering or.
So does anybody have anything they want to, off the top of their head, add right now, or do we want to just think about it and email them to Paul as we think of them in the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, because they'll be here in 2 weeks. If you get me something, by the beginning of next week, I'll send it out to them. If you have anything else, okay.
Then can you include that in the packet, please?
Okay, I will.
Okay, thanks. Okay, next up we have town manager bid awards.
Yeah, real quickly, the one we have is for the Chelmsford Country Club, or the golf course. We issued an RFP. Christina Bruce handled this in my office, and we advertised, solicited, got a lot of inquiries. The price proposal and submission that we received came from our current vendor, which is Sterling Golf Management, and as you described in the attachment, the materials that I provided for you, this is a 5-year procurement going forward. The funding amounts have increased. So, for example, right now we've got 10% of the first $400,000 of gross receipts as a fee to the town with a minimum of $50,000 annually. Now, if those revenues are rising, so therefore if it exceeds $400,000, it would go to 16%. Kind of like a graduated tax rate. And then similarly, if it's above $750,000, we'd get 30% of the gross receipts. The idea being is, there's a fixed cost that they have to run the course, staffing and so forth. And the idea is, if the popularity of the course continues to increase, then therefore the marginal revenue, more of that marginal revenue should come to the town. And fortunately, the golf is stabilized and is a little more popular, and the number of competitive courses is diminished in our area, and that's what's helping. As you may know, the Acton took a course offline, Borica, and so therefore, we got, it's been helpful. And also, I think they've done a nice job of maintaining the conditions of the course. And then also, for capital improvements, they're proposing 2% of the gross revenues devoted to capital improvements. Currently, that's 1%. So what happens is again, that's why you competitively procure this. There was a number of interested bidders who obtained the proposal. Again, it's a sealed bid process, and obviously doing this is, and I think the fact of how well things are running out there, they've increased it. And then finally, on the clubhouse, that's a more challenging, and it's always been a more challenging procurement. The monthly rent is $700. That's a $100 per month increase above the current monthly rent at the clubhouse. Again, the town has been fortunate. Sterling Golf Management has managed this facility for 30 years, and we've bid it every 5 years. And in some cases, there have been other bidders. This year, there were other bidders who pulled it, including locals, but didn't bid. But we've been fortunate, and I know because when people are upset with the golf course, we hear about it. You probably hear about it as well. And I can honestly say, in the last 5 years, it's really been a very positive trend and positive experience. And I think, in summary, I'm asking you to approve the bid awards for the golf course operations and the function hall and pub management to Sterling Golf Management for another 5-year period as presented.
Paul, if somebody rents the function hall, does the town get the money, or does Sterling get the money?
Sterling gets the money, but they pay us the rent. And then also they have a liquor license from the town.
Right.
And again, the challenge there is, and it's a challenge with golf in general, people just can't have that amount of time. Right now, it's a challenge for people to get time to play 9 holes of golf, never mind the old days when it'd be 18. And that's why the function hall never caught on for people to stay after they play. And then also just the structure itself doesn't lend itself. I mean, you got to go up those ridiculously large stairs to get there from the golf course side, or go all the way around to the front. And so the function hall it's never, it can't stand alone. Even though we bid it separately, and probably in the future we'll probably bid them jointly. But Sterling gets that, and obviously we want to make it attractive for them to continue to invest in it. And so, that's really where it is. Yeah, go ahead.
Who sets the rates for 9 holes,
9 holes.
or the rental of the room, or?
They do, but they discuss that with us annually. So in other words, before the season's open, the DPW director, Christine Clancy, and I will meet with Sterling Golf and discuss, what's your plan for the upcoming year in terms of rates, operations, what improvements do we need to do in terms of tree work and so forth. Generally, what really dictates it, Pat, is the market. you know, they know. I mean, it's. I mean, somebody like Jeff who golfs regularly, I know, they know. Like, oh, what are they charging? You know, over here, and what are they charging over there? And you know, what's the private clubs? And this it's a public course, and it has its own market. So that's really what's driving it is really the market in terms of the popularity of golf. I mean, the heyday was Tiger Woods. I mean, you couldn't keep people away from the courses and then it kind of waned. Now it's becoming more popular. So the answer to your question is, Pat, they have the final say, but the town has an active, you know, role in terms of discussions because, you know, it really needs to be a win-win because if they're driving people away or losing revenue, they still have those same carrying costs. So it's really driven by what the market is out there.
It's a great own little niche.
Yeah.
People who are not like great golfers say that's a place they can go and relax.
Yeah.
Not be intimidated by like some of the private courses and stuff like that. I think that's the benefit of that course.
Yeah.
Because beginners are welcome there.
Right, and they just
enjoy
don't want to price people out, and that's why you see they really try to attract young and new people coming in, or seniors at the other end. And that's what they do with their pricing programs, and they'll have a program where you know, Sterling manages about 10 courses, and they'll have one where you can buy a pass where you can go to multiple courses and so forth and then they also support the high school in Neshoba Tech, which is getting those kids onto the course as well.
So 2% of annual sales, which I think it's at 700 and something thousand in here. What happens if there's a major capital improvement? How does that get resolved?
That's why we have the enterprise fund, and so every year we put that money into that. So, you know, there's going to come up, and that was how we fixed the clubhouse when we had repairs. But also, if there comes an issue where we got to deal with the irrigation system on the course and so forth, we go to town meeting, get that vote to you know, to use that funds. Very similar to what we do with the forum, the ice rink, same thing. We run an enterprise fund, have what we call retained earnings or enterprise free cash, and that's sort of our fund. And if it gets real significant, we'd borrow. You know, we would have to borrow over a period. But, you know, the other thing that we're going to do over there is we're going to install cameras. I mean, there's a theme here, you know, cameras, because we really want to, again, increase the visibility on the course out there, because that helps them in terms of pace of play, but it just also helps with security out there. Okay. So I need a motion to support that. Accept the bids.
I'll make a motion that the board authorize the town manager to enter into a 5-year agreement with Sterling Golf Management, Inc. of 212 Kenrick Street, Newton, Mass. for the operation of the golf course and the function hall and pub at Chelmsford Country Club.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Next up, town manager reports.
Yeah, real quick, this is a good news report tonight. Since our last meeting, you see the letter dated November 13th, we received notice from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs, Department of Energy Resources, that the town of Chelmsford has been awarded a $1 million grant under the Climate Leaders Community Decarbonization Accelerator Program to support the installation of solar photovoltaics at the 2 fire stations that are planned for construction, as well as ground-based heat pumps, or we call geothermal, for the Roberts Field station. This has been mentioned in the past at discussions with the building committee and so forth, and this is just the great news. And expected news, because we knew there was a narrow window because there are very few climate leader communities. There's funding available, and this basically will pay for the solar panels and the geothermal at the Roberts Field station. So it's just great news, and it's just great to formally announce and move forward with that. So we'll be taking what are currently the least energy efficient buildings offline and bringing on hopefully new online stations.
That goes a long way.
Yeah.
Perfect timing.
And we qualified for this. Is this the work that the
Sustainability Commission
did?
Yeah, exactly. And
so it's paying off.
Yeah, and again, Christine Clancy, again, was sort of the department head who oversaw this, with Chris Haley, her, energy sustainability coordinator, and they moved with Hamdi, who was from left field, to get the application in, and we got it. The next thing is a more traditional grant from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection. This is the Sustainable Materials Recovery Program, i.e. the recycling program, and this year Chelmsford earned 8 points and will receive $16,800 that we use to support recycling activities in the community. And then the last thing on my report is the traditional monthly double poll report. Again, the never-ending double poll report. What's happened in the last month, three double polls were removed, 11 were added, so it's a +8 to 54. The most important thing, as I noted in my memo, is Verizon is the last one in the cycle. So the fact that basically 19 of the 54 are at Verizon means that, those double polls are virtually, at that last stage, and I'll keep pushing Verizon as well as Comcast. And the others are basically those third-party providers that I push National Grid on, because we're obviously getting to the winter conditions. So good news is they have less compelling work to do, and the bad news is as soon as we get the snowbank conditions, they can't do this work. So I just wanted to let you know that we're still monitoring this, and we'll keep pushing them to remove the double poles. So that concludes my report for this evening, and I just have a few appointments.
Thank you. Go ahead. You can go ahead.
Okay, the 3 appointments to the Capital Planning Committee. Bartholomew Wiesler of Dunstable Road to the Capital Planning Committee for a 3-year term unexpired ending June 30th, 2028. And then 2 for the Permanent Building Committee, Karthikeyan Narayan of Bel Air Drive for a term ending June 30th, 2028.
You had some tongue twisters
Those are
tonight.
harder than that.
Those are harder than those Polish names, right? And Michelle Delafave, who we met at the last Permanent Building Committee and was very interested, and we were very impressed. And that would be for a 3-year term ending June 30th, 2028. So again, that would fill the vacancies on those committees.
Anybody have questions or anything, comments? No? I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion that the board authorize the town manager's appointments as presented.
Second that.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now we have some meeting minutes. Anybody have anything on these?
I didn't catch anything, but if there's spelling, Pat gets it.
I always look to Pat first.
I do too,
when
for spelling.
When I look up and say, does anyone have anything? That's some punctuation also. Okay. I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion that the board approve the regular meeting minutes of October 27th, 2025 as presented.
I'll second that.
A motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
I'm going to abstain because I wasn't here.
Motion passes 4 in favor, 1 abstention. And we are to liaison reports and referrals. How do you want to go first?
Just very quickly, the Capital Planning Committee started its work last week. We'll be meeting again this Wednesday evening. I believe those meetings are televised, but we'll be meeting here in this room 6 p.m. Wednesday evening for capital planning. And then we also have a school building committee meeting on Thursday evening at the school committee meeting room.
Oh, it's at the Elks, at the Elks.
Oh, it's at
6
the Elks,
o'clock,
that's
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. That's right. We are moving to the Elks this time, but because we're going to do a visioning session right after. So, so we will be meeting Thursday evening, a little bit prior.
6 o'clock, and then
6 o'clock.
7 o'clock is the visioning session.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So 6 p.m., the school building committee will meet to discuss its business, and then 7 p.m. at the Elks, we'll be doing a visioning session. So anybody at home that's interested in helping to put forth ideas and so on of, what may be appropriate going forward for the different grade configurations in the building, et cetera, please attend and offer assistance. Thank you.
Yeah, I have a few this evening. First, actually this morning into this afternoon, Aaron and Paul and I were at Triton Systems on Apollo Drive. You may know that they have a headquarters over next to Press Cafe. Well, they have a new facility now on Apollo Drive. We're doing a lot of really good stuff there. Anyway, they had a ribbon cutting there, so congratulations to them. There was also a ribbon cutting a while ago at Jersey Mike's in Drum Hill. Good food there, so if you're hungry sometime, stop and have a sub at Jersey Mike's. A couple weeks ago, I went to the Cultural Council meeting. They are in the process now of selecting who will receive grants from them. Every year they get a pocket of money from the town, from the state. This year it's about $20,000, so they solicit applications for that money. They received 37 requests for a total of $46,000 in requests. So obviously they can't grant every request, so they're in the process of evaluating those applications for who's going to get some funds. This Saturday, November 22nd, the Chelmsford Friends of the Library is going to try their first crack at a pop-up book sale at Navigation Brewery from 12 to 4 p.m. So you can come by and buy a used book while you're drinking a cold beer. Isn't it a good idea? Yeah, so we'll see how that works. It might become a regular thing. And then just a few Thanksgiving-related things. As the usual, Thanksgiving Eve, there will be a walk through Thanksgiving Forest, which is at the end of Janet Road. Starts at 2 p.m., so all are invited for that, and looks like it's going to be pretty decent weather. And secondly, the Chelmsford High football team, I know they lost their last playoff game, but they get to play their traditional rivals, Billerica, on Thanksgiving Day, so good luck to them, and hope they'll bring the, what's it called, that cup?
Used to be the Burke Hill Cup.
The Burke Hill Cup, to Chelmsford. And then lastly, happy Thanksgiving to the residents of Chelmsford. That's all I have.
I'll start with conservation. We all received an email from John Ray, and it seems that things are moving at Coolest Farm the way they asked. And but I haven't talked to Carl Biscoff since town meeting, so I haven't heard much from conservation. Pretty much same thing with cemetery. Dave, Superintendent Boyle and I will be attending a seminar for the New England cemeteries in December for a couple of days. And then the parade committee is meeting for the first time in a while tomorrow night to discuss banner sales for the winter banners.
That are up. They look nice.
The winter ones are already up?
Did you see them in the center? Yeah. Yeah, with the American logo and the star. Yeah.
Oh, I haven't seen them.
Yeah, when you get a chance. They're very impressive. I noticed them.
Oh, I like the proof, but
on Saturday.
I'll be curious to hear how sales went.
Yeah.
Because I know I have a lot of people approaching me like that haven't gotten them, asking me how they can get them.
Mm-hmm.
So I always direct them to chelmsfordparade.org.com or .whatever. You'll get there easy enough. And pretty much that's all I have.
I could do this pretty quick. My apologies, obviously, to two of the boards that I missed their last meeting. So Vinyl Square met. Obviously, tree lighting was on their calendar as well as working through their 2015 recommendations. And I know that their next meeting for 12/15 has been canceled. I'll update you on anything that comes out of the next meeting. And that was on the night of our tri-board meeting. And then the Council on Aging Board, I will get to the next one and have an update from them. The Planning Board met the other day. There were, again, as always, they're pretty busy. We got to see the presentations on the 2 fire stations, which was an interesting opportunity to kind of see that from a different lens. Chelmsford Mall continues to be continued. They had their hearing and their vote on 191 Riverneck Road. That was Commonwealth Construction Utilities wanted to go on that lot that's over there, and that failed to move forward. I don't recall what the vote count was. And then 131 Princeton Street, which is the liquor store up on North Chelmsford, that that had another hearing there, so that's continued, so that's still open item. And then we saw a little bit of it tonight, but that's the renovation of the hotel into hotels, residents, adult daycare, and the pizza shop. So I'm sure the pizza shop will be coming before us again at some point, but that did get approved, what they needed approval from the planning board from, that did get approved for what they needed to. So that was, I think this tonight was just kind of the next step in that process. So they're in good shape. I did go to the capital planning committee just to sit in on that and hear those list of, unfortunately, I think all critical projects. But that was very interesting there. Nothing really stood out other than, again, we have a lot of capital needs and a lot of old buildings. And then I saved the age-friendly committee for last. This is an online meeting that I get to do with Paul and the chief and that committee over there. And there's always, they're always just working on something. They continue to work towards their strategic plan objectives to align with what the town adopted. And one of the things that kind of stood out to me, and Paul can correct me if I'm wrong if he recalls, but they do their Growers Row, and this year it was over 2,000 pounds of fresh greens that they were able to provide. 900 pounds of that went to Table of Plenty. But I think one of the things that definitely caught my eye is my former colleagues up on Elizabeth Drive at Brooks Automation. I did not know this. I don't remember it being there when I was there, but they have 4 25-foot beds and generated over 400 pounds of food this year. So I think with food insecurity being in the news lately, those are good news things. And although not a liaison assignment, I think this is just important for me to share personally. We try to give to the food pantry once in a while when we can. I know people think about it a lot during the holiday season. I think people think a lot about it when, we had this government shutdown. Just don't forget there's a constant need. So I had to remind myself of that, and we brought some stuff down. There was a line of cars, like Chelmsford supports us. There was a line of cars out there for donations, and they were opening up trunks. It just reminds me for all the differences we have in this community, there's one thing we do, and it's we show up to support our fellow citizens, the food pantry needs, the schools, and that was just further echoed by the opportunity to attend the Veterans Day celebration and to see all those people there and the football team and stuff like that. So people ask me what it's like being on the board. When I get to see things like that and attend events like that, it just shows me that, again, despite our differences, this is an amazing community, and it's an opportunity to participate in those things. So I'm going to keep showing up, and I ask my fellow residents to keep coming out there and showing up with me. So thank you.
Well, I'd like to give a shout out to the Veterans Day Committee. They did a fantastic job, and even though it was greatly, very well attended, a lot of younger people, which I was happy to see, even though it was bitterly cold that day.
And I don't have anything, so I'll take a motion.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.